House of Reawakening Minds, and let us greet our illustrious Grand Sheikh Taj Tarik Bey.
Subject for tonight is the Spanish Inquisition and the major source of the wealth stolen by the bishopric and Church of Rome. Attack upon the witches of Salem, that's really Sala. Witch means wise woman. That's one of the principles that you must understand, how language has been turned around in order to negate your mentality about yourself and about your culture. Are we clear? As you all know, connotative linguistics has been deliberately introduced by the bishopric for the purpose of mind control. Are we clear? Also, this is one of the reasons why when there's any calculated assessment done or survey done on our people or the Asiatics of the land, with who they'll brand Black, Negro, Indian, all those are brands, that the average reading level is 4th grade from the children to the adults. And it has to do with the fact of the connotative linguistics. Are we clear? Now, it doesn't mean that the people lack intelligence. They haven't been given a basic Edamon degree, which they should have gotten in the 3rd grade. Are we clear? So what happens, they're handicapped in elementary school, so as they grow up, they can't actually compete. Are we clear? Now, that must be understood, and that must be on your mind at all times when we're talking. Are we clear? And don't hesitate to do some cross-examination and research. Are we clear? As a reminder, don't go past words that you do not comprehend or understand when you're reading. Are we clear? Take notes on words. Are we clear? Another point that I want to make to you is Privy Council. How many of you know what Privy Council is? Raise your hand. Look around the room. Because you want to be aware of your environment. And you want to be aware of, like, say, for instance, if we ask particular key questions, then that means it lies upon you all who know to tell those who do not know. So this is a signal where each one teach one. Are we clear? Because keep in mind, you can have a bunch of people, numbers of people, deal with anything in a public forum, subject matter, and most of them will leave assuming that they know what was discussed. But the fact that you see only a couple people raise their hands is a demonstration of a problem that we have to solve. Are we clear? Now, Privy Council would include the board of directors for any corporate entity, the Congress, the bishopric, Knights Templars, Skull and Bones, Illuminati, Daughters of American Revolution, Daughters of Isis, etc., Masons of any degree, Eastern Stars of any degree, Kaiklos, Ku Klux Klan, Union Guard, White Camellia, Thule Society, etc. Any of the secret societies that people are usually spooked about or told is evil and stuff, they're all Privy Council. Are we clear? They exist to separate people who are usually appointed to or granted certain powers in society, to separate them from the masses who are held to servitude but are never to know that. Are we clear? This is why usually when they talk about secret societies, masonry, anything, they always put a negative on it so that the average person doesn't pay attention to it or that they reject it. This is to protect persons who claim to be the elite from the people they're raping. Are we clear? Whether it's intellectual, political, economic, social. Are we clear? Because when you think that something's evil or distorted, you reject it, and you don't seek to examine it. It's not a matter of whether you want to be a part of it or not. It's to keep the masses from real knowledge. Are we clear? This allows corruption to go on in your face every day. Are we clear? As an example, and I know that many of you have experienced this, you may see or hear people in organized dogma systems. Dogma systems they may call churches, mosques, synagogues, etc. Are we clear? And it's not knocking people for being there, it's just simply telling you the truth. If you're going to help raise people out of darkness, you've got to tell the truth. The truth is sometimes uncomfortable. However, it is what it is, and it needs no apology. Are we clear? And if the people had the truth, we wouldn't be in the trouble that we're in. That's for sure. Are we clear? As an example, you will see in most bishopric, in most clergy and churches, they'll condemn masonry across the pulpit. But in secret, 90% of them are Masons. Are we clear? Same thing with the matrons of the church. Condemn Masonry, but most of them are Eastern Stars. Are we clear? And if you go into those big-time churches, parking lots, and pay attention to some of them badges that you'll see on the trunks, you'll see the Sphinx head with the Moorish sword above it in a circle, where you'll see the star, pentagram, etc., with the different colors, etc., for the women. All right? That's the real culture of the planet. Are we clear? Are we clear? Meaning that if in Privy Council, as an example, say if you're sitting with a president of the world's largest corporation, or the president of the United States Corporation Company, and a rabbi of the rabbinate, and a high bishop in the church, and an imam from the mosque, and a grand dragon from the Kaiklos and Ku Klux Klan, and a grand matron from the Daughters of the American Revolution, all appearing disparate to yourselves. In a private conversation, they would all have root knowledge in Gnosticism. Are we clear? That would not conflict. Are we clear? They would have root knowledge in the Hermetic law, which is related to the phenomena that operates in the universe and on the earth, and is at the foundation of all true religious principle. When you say doctrine, principle. Are we clear? That don't change or pass away. When they come out into the public with their alluring believers who pay the bills, they make different flavors, whatever it takes, to mentally put them to sleep and to have them pay the bills. Are we clear? And to inject them with all kinds of fears and superstitions. And then everybody else that ain't in their club is demonic. You get the point? In secret, none of them believe that, and all of them know that that is a false paradigm. However, that's what is used to run the world. Are we clear? Privy Council is necessary for those who promote these dogma systems not to fall victim to their own BS. Are we clear? And these are the same people that when this information is exposed to the general masses will be the major number one trolls and condemners of this information. Are we clear? While in secret, they know it's true. But they know that the masses have been miseducated, and because they feed off the masses, they protect the fraud. Are we clear? Under the guise of spirituality and truth. I say guise of spirituality and truth. As a reminder to you all, many of you already know this as scholars, but in case you didn't know this, spirituality does not mean praying all over the place. Are we clear? And doing a salami baloney type thing. Spirituality is breathing methodologies and techniques which are trained and taught. Are we clear? In order to activate your cell memory, and it is sort of like mental purging or ablution or baptism. It is the mental meditation of preparing your body to receive information to activate your cell memory. Are we clear? Which would include yoga, advanced yoga techniques, and meditation techniques. That's its purpose, all clear. And you learn breathing techniques. We're not going to get into that. I'm telling you, but that's spirituality. And the philosophies that they talk about, it's not spirituality, that's Gnostic wisdom. That's religion, are we clear? And the principles are universal. In Asia, in Africa, Southwestern Mexican, Northwestern Mexican, all rooted the same, are we clear? But when the leaders come out to the public, they change up their language in order to make people fall into what is called secularism. Are we clear? Secularism is divisions. This way they control the masses and have them fighting each other and accusing each other of devils, when the leader guy and leader girl and the other leader guys and other leader girls in secret know the same thing. Meaning, just like mathematics, meaning that the fundamentals of math, when you go to China, it doesn't change just because the language changes. Are we clear? If we're going to, as an example, when I put this light up the other day, right? Because we need some light. We're not finished. As an example, the principle of electricity will still work elsewhere. Are we clear? It wouldn't change because I claim to be Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist, Confucius. Are we clear? When you understand the truth about life, divine law is like that on the planet. It doesn't change and it doesn't pass away. And it's measurable by all humans that know the science. Are we clear? When they get out among their alluring believers, they start changing up stuff to get in people's pockets. Are we clear? And to get you to serve them, pretending that you're serving Jesus, God, Allah, Muhammad type thing. And then they wear fancy garbs at your expense and make you think that your misery is because of the mystical devil. It's because of priesthood. Are we clear? Yeah. In the Septuaginta, when you see Yahushua, who they, at the Nicene Council, renamed Jesus in order to hide the history. When you see him disputing with the doctors of the law and with the Pharisees and Sadducees, where they know the truth themselves and they hinder the little ones from knowing the truth, what I just told you is exactly what that lesson is. The greatest damage that's done to humanity has been done by the bishopric, which is the collective clergy. That's the truth. Hard knock, hard truth, it is the truth. Which is also why it's difficult for people to solve problems, because the people who they've trusted is the demon. Hard knock, true. And this is also the secret to their power, because the people just don't believe that these people standing behind the pulpit is a vampire. It's hard, but it's true. This is again why it's difficult to liberate people, because they themselves defend the demons, looking to the netherworld for the demons down the street, who the bishop would point to. See, they're across the street at that mosque or that other church, and they're not in the building with us, and therefore they're sinners going to hell on fire and all that kind of crap. And they're saying the same thing about us. And they're saying the same thing about other people down the street. Are we clear? No. But the leaders in secret are all Gnostics. Meaning that the math of life does not change, and it doesn't pass away. Problem, the masses aren't given the knowledge. They're given dogmata. Dogmata is counterfeit religion. Are we clear? When you're dealing with Septuaginta, which is your first Bibles, and you're dealing with the Bible, dealing with the Quran, you're dealing with Waspi, your Rancheria book, the Vedas, all of them are cosmology books and books that deal with the activation of the glandular system in the body that connects with nature. Are we clear? The activation of your glandular system is what is called the ascension, nirvana, going up into heaven, ascending unto heaven, anointing your head with oil, all these different terms simply mean the activation of the pineal gland, the medulla, etc. Are we clear? Now, when they talk about Yahushua, who they code-wise call Jesus, the sacrifice that image of that man made was to sacrifice himself to bring that knowledge to the common people. Are we clear? That's what that represents. Are we clear? And to make you aware of the fact that all that you seek outside you was already in you. You were just deceived by the priesthood and distracted. Are we clear? Are we clear? Now, that's not to present anything against anyone's belief. That's just simply the fact. You know, we need to get over ourselves, get over the ego, and all the other crap, and get real so that we can maybe begin to save the next generation, because most of these past generations are so contaminated that they'll probably be sacrificed by the same priesthood that they got this godly faith in, thinking that the devil was something else and that these people are going to save them from the mystical devil and they're the demon. It's a hard truth. It is the truth. Are we clear? Now, point. The major source of wealth for the bishopric and the church came from y'all. The Moabite woman, who they refer to as the witches of Sala. Across the North Gate, which is North America, that's the cosmological name for North America, etc. They have multiple cities all over the place called Salem. Salem is actually reduced, one of the A's is really Salam. And all over, even in Salem, New Jersey, they even preserved a couple of trees that people come from around the world to visit, where they hung a lot of women and murdered a lot of women under that tree. You know about that, right? Oh, yeah. And them women is you. This is what the bishopric would do. Keep in mind that in Asiatic culture and in harmony with nature, nation comes from nativity. Navel, just like we sons got a navel, that's the proof of our origin. We can say anything that we want to say about gods, demons, etc., and over in, on the backside of Venus, where the gods are, and brought us here, and we can talk all that stuff. The only proof you really got is your mother. Are we clear?
Islam.
In man, they talk about Adam and Eve coming from Adam's rib, while Adam's sitting up there with a belly button. He got a mother. And got them little buttons on his chest that don't work. That's because he was a female egg first. Because there is no male eggs in nature. Are we clear?
Islam.
Now that's divine truth. How many people would deny that truth in order to support their belief systems given to them by the priesthood? 80% of the people. And would start talking about, you got a demon for telling that truth, what I just said. And they will revert to what the priesthood say and go right back to sleep while these suckers suck on them and murder all the prophets when they come to liberate you. Are we clear? That's the truth. Now, witch means wise woman, and you know and I know, and we don't have to go through it. It has been trained among the masses that witch is a negative connotation. Is that not true?
Islam.
That's called connotative linguistics. Are we clear? Giving a false meaning to certain words in order to dissuade people from its truth. And then doing that in multiple levels of the language and introducing it into a targeted people, which constitutes ignorance, and they cannot read because their concepts will be wrong. All they have to do is get them from when they're young. Are we clear?
Islam.
And as you all know, and write this down, I think I had this on past week, but I don't want to, y'all got this?
Yeah.
Sit in.
staying away from it.
Oh, yeah. And if anybody just wants to take a picture of this with your camera so we can move on, go ahead and do so. Because you're going to use this as reference. I know, and that you know, when you go to the average mosque, church, synagogue, the majority of these institutions and hospitals and schools are run by women. Is that not true? Is it not true? Who gets oppressed the most?
Women.
Who gets underpaid the most?
Women.
Who gets distracted the most?
Women.
But who dedicatedly keep these institutions running?
Women.
And then who's rejected once they challenge the situation? And then they blame the mystical devil. And yet that is rooted in the culture. Is it not? It is, isn't it?
Islam.
And it creates a lot of problems between men who are mates to women and men who may not know that and men who do know that and benefit from that BS of the system, but they don't want to rock the boat because nobody likes you when you tell the truth. Are we clear?
Where?
So they go along with the BS. Meanwhile, the next generation learns it and they get more contaminated. So we grow up not knowing how to treat each other. So we become sex partners, and after that, our minds don't meet. We clash. And then you raise sons like us, who after they're teenagers, you lose them. And now they're really not even prepared for the real world. Then we go into the bank bond contract that they call marriage, which is owned by the popes of Rome, in case you didn't know that. What letter is that in the alphabet? 9 months of man's birth in the womb of woman. I, Mars, I, and rage. It's a spell. Most marriages will not last 3 years. And if they do, it's usually because of economics, that one of the partners don't leave. Meaning that 90% of the time, if you have finance, you leave it. And you blame your partner. Because there's a spirit on it. Now, people don't know that because they don't know that's a spell cast set up by the priesthood. They think that's some kind of divine order set up by God and Jesus and Allah in the divine mating of man and woman. No, that's human cells. And with the certificate, which is a bank bond, the Pope of Rome claims the uterus, claims the fallopian tubes, and claims the eggs that that fallopian tube on both sides produces. And then later with the birth certificate, which is another bank bond, they claim the eggs that hatch. And people think that that's some kind of divine spirit of the Lord of bringing men and women together. And then they tell you, the vampire tells you the separation of church and state, don't they? The bishop, don't they? Won't they? And you know what they'll say? Oh, brother, was you just checking out this sister? And would you take her for your lawful better wife and all that stuff? And you can get all, yeah, I like your speak still. Right? They talk all that stuff and go through the ceremony and they throw rice at you, darkness, so they won't blind you. And then they'll admit, because they know that people can't read, by the power vested in me, by the state of Delaware. I pronounce you man and wife. They're state agents. They're just soldiers.
Come on with it.
And then they tell you the separation of church and state. Do you know how many people? See, but that way they duck the karmic rule. See, because nature does not recognize person with station. So they tell you the truth. But they know nobody's listening.
Islam.
But did he lie? No. They're deceived. Because they know these people can't read. And they think it's divine, and therefore, they're so caught up in the ceremony. They don't know the difference between marriage and matrimony. When the ceremony is really supposed to be matrimony. The bishopric made up the marriage code, which is an ownership by the popes of Rome. All inheritances go to the bishopric of Rome, governed by the Council Circle Church on Fleet Street, England, and regulated by the military mercenary army called the U.S. Democracy Governing Body Politic, which is not a country, it's an army. And so is the Jesuit, an army. And that's what's been running this planet. Fact. And all people who are party to this must be Masons and wear a Moorish fez, what you see right there, and their lodges will have Moorish names of a Moorish woman. Are we clear? And they come out into the world and pretend they don't know these people are Moors. And take an oath to Rome not to reveal the secrets.
I hate to interrupt while I was watching.
Go ahead.
Everybody's talking about that it's dark. We're going to move you over to the center
Oh.
that you're not, and we need to move we get some help. We can move this out of the darkness right here. And we
I'll fix that next week.
okay, we need to,
That's like the other.
Don't worry about the bags.
That's
Go
what
ahead.
I don't know what's like.
Yeah. Is that enough?
Is that better?
Is that enough?
Yeah, that's good.
That's better.
All right,
Yeah.
good. And I'll turn this just a little bit. Good?
Clear.
Good?
Yes, clear.
Now, you know, and I don't have to say it, that the things I just now said were very controversial.
Yes.
Because truth is controversial.
Yes.
But it's also a signal as to why it's difficult to liberate the masses and why they will never be free in general. Because they will refuse to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Because they think it belongs to Jesus and Allah and Prophet Muhammad and Buddha and Confucius. No, it's these Romans who murdered all of them. And they used Jesus as a front for world conquest. And the people followed them in the name of Jesus when they're really worshiping Constantine. Are we clear? This is the official name. This is for those of you who may be confused about what I just said. This is the official name of Christianity presented to the world by the popes of Rome. Also referred to as now, truth be told, how many people go to churches and don't know that's the official name of Christianity? How many people do you know in your family and people all around you, they go to church and talk about the Bible and talk about Jesus and don't even know that that's the official name of the Christianity that they're getting by these clergy? Did you know that? Yes. You know, and just for supports, because I want you to comprehend essentially how people are played right? Even that dictionary right up there behind you. Book, yeah. Yeah, any one of them. Now, people don't suspect that they're under mind control. Give it to any of these sisters. And get another dictionary, Nicene, give it to them. And then get another one. I want her to have one. And it's important that you all, and the reason why I'm addressing you is because you've been the target. But by you being the target, we're the target because we're your sons.
Islam.
You know, we got all this going on, but don't get that stuff confused. We just cry in secret. We play that game with y'all, you know, like, yeah. Then we get in secret and cry. So don't get this idea that men are hard because we talk trash. We just proud because you train us that way. Are we clear? But don't get it twisted. We cry when nobody's around so that we can maintain our fake integrity. You know, that type of stuff. And it's true. Deal with it is, if we're going to start solving the problems of the planet, we've got to start being honest. And to thine own self be true. Being honest does not mean being weak. Are we clear? And we got to get over the ego that causes damage and harm to humanity and to life on the planet. Because it certainly has, and it certainly is. And we must shed that in order to start fixing things and learn to love instead of hate. Are we clear? And so, you can't fix something that you don't know is broken. Are we clear? Give her a yellow highlighter. You got a yellow highlighter, sis? And I'm going to give you
Islam right here.
Yeah. And then give her the mic, and I want you to read, and I want you to see this is in an ordinary dictionary, right? Right?
Yes.
So it's not hidden, is it?
No.
How many people go in the mosque, church, synagogues for years with their families and won't even go in an ordinary dictionary, and they think that Reverend Jones don't know that he got these people worshiping Constantine? This is why they won't tell the people the original name, because as soon as you see that, the people will start thinking, oh, wait a minute, that don't say the Jesus Creed, the Yahshuan Creed, it says the Constantinopolitan Creed. It's Constantine and his mother.
Islam.
Now, I want you to read, and I want you, now keep this in mind. This is an ordinary dictionary, a high school dictionary. That's not even a college dictionary. It's a high school dictionary. I want you to read what you see and get in the mic real clear, because you're being filmed in China, because they're going to be listening to China and Japan and in Anika and South America and on the islands. So while you're talking, I guarantee you there's people in Japan right now that's streaming this. So what we want is for the rest of the world to start recognizing that our people are starting to become competent. Because they know you while we don't know ourselves. They know us as Asiatics. We think everybody else is Asiatics, and we think that we're black. We don't even know our pedigree, our bloodline, and our relationship to the rest of the human family. And they're kind of like a little bit frustrated. What the hell is wrong with us? And we always claim this spirituality that's totally dead. Our families are dead. Children are dying younger and younger on the street. Half the men are in jail. Other half is homos. Women trying to struggle to raise their children under the Christian black codes, and then they deliver their children to the church. Don't you know that these guys are rapists, pedophiles, and demons? That doesn't mean every one of them is that. I don't know if I should take that back or not, but close. I'm being honest with you. And these women keep delivering their babies to these demons. Then we grow up screwed up. Then we mate with another one of your sisters, don't know how to act right. And then you wonder what the hell's wrong with us because you raised us. With that fake spirituality that you've been defending and funding. and telling your children that Jesus got a bank account at Chase Manhattan, and everybody else in the world knows that Reverend Jones go to the Bahamas with Jesus' hair every year with Bertha, who sings with the choir. Now, that is the truth. But nobody wants to deal with the truth. Got a nice $3,000 suit, a Mercedes, and a Lexus, and a parish, and people are poor. And they're up to here with mortgages with all these buildings that European contractors build in these so-called black communities. Oh, continue.
From me?
I want you to get in the mic because we want to hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I want you to read. And now consider this. Feel free, as an intelligent being, after you read it, to say what you feel. Because it's good to know what you think. Because here we're free thinkers. Go ahead.
So underneath saying, actually I don't speak that.
Just read the Nicene Creed.
The Nicene Creed,
Yeah.
a formal statement of the chief tenets of Christian belief based on that adopted by the First Nicene Council and generally accepted throughout Western Christendom.
Yeah. Go ahead. Come on.
What else are we?
Go ahead. Is that now
The
it's short?
council? Oh, that's good. Okay, so the Nicene Council, either
Nicene Council.
Nicene Council, either of two general and what's that?
Ecclesiastical.
Okay. Councils that met at Nicaea, the first in 325 AD, to deal with the Arian
heresy.
And I'm going to get into that in a minute.
Okay. The second
Keep
in
this in mind.
787 AD to consider the question of images.
Now, children in the 3rd grade can count, but adults have difficulty.
Come on with it.
That's 325 years after they murdered the Nazarene. What does he have to do with that council? Basic math. Now remember, we're going to an ordinary dictionary, their own record. How sure, how confident are they in knowing that we don't read?
Extreme.
Based on our training. Is that deep research? No, it's not deep research. It's elementary, in your face. A child can get it.
To the dictionary.
But who keeps telling these children, including Reverend Jones and Pastor Pickfoot, that says Jesus came out of a cloud of glory at the beginning of the world and brought you that book. And without it, you're going to hell in a handbasket. And if you don't follow Rev, you're doomed. That whole foundation was made up 325 years after they murdered him. And that's only a short dissertation. That's not even getting deep. So that's like us having a discussion right now. You see, I was going down the street and stuff, and see, my cell phone, you know, it lost a charge. I only had a couple bars on it. You know, so I went over to the sister and I borrowed her cell phone because she got an iPhone. And then George Washington called me on his iPhone 10. And people roll with that. George Washington had no iPhone. And he ain't around. And that ain't even 325 years. But yet they attribute the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed to Jesus, and there's no J in Hebrew, no J in Aramaic.
Come on with it.
Yahshua spoke Aramaic. You know what the great greeting of Yahshua was whenever he meet you? The one that they call Jesus. If you walked in that door and he greeted you, what would he say in Aramaic? The one they call Jesus, he would say, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be unto you in Aramaic. Why Reverend don't say that? Because they don't want you to know that he was Hebrew and Muslim. And that they altered the books from their original form to conquer the world. And you've been following Rome, thinking that you following the Nazarene, which is your own bloodline. He had hair like lamb's wool, skin like burnished brass, as it burned in the oven, and they worshiping a Roman on the wall and teaching their children that that's Jesus. And they're worshiping Constantine and paying for it. And now the world's mad at each other. They got all kind of denominations, and everybody's a devil that ain't a believer in the club that's down the street. And then when they get frustrated, they go get another god. See, I found the real one this week. See, I used to be at this church. Now, see, I found the door. See, I was walking down the street, and then I came to my realization. And I found the Lord. I really found Jesus this time. Well, did you give the body back? Did you give the breath back you had from the last one? I didn't give that back. But what's up with this? We don't get it, that how naive we are. And most people, out of compassion, out of pseudo-respect, out of not wanting to argue with us, won't tell us the hypocrites that we absolutely are. So they go along the program. But we saved this time. I think you were saved last time. No, I'm really saved this time. Wait a minute. You were saved before. Yeah, but that ain't the real salvation. Man, this one on the Iman Vivo Festival. Oh, all right. So you have a right to your beliefs. That's all it is, beliefs. Has nothing to do with facts, all clear. It's not to condemn it. It is to put things in perspective, are we clear? It is accepting things without proofs or research, are we clear? Now, let's be honest. How many people that you know in your family and others that would absolutely condemn you and accuse you of having a devil if you said what you just read from that book out of your mouth in a general conversation? They want to throw you out of the buildings on your damn head and say that you got a demon.
Islam? That's true.
And that's the truth. That is their own record. But you know what they know? That the believers don't read because they're trained not to. Are we clear? Now, go ahead. That's
Pass her the mic. Pass her the mic. Repeat your question. Comment.
I was just asking if that was just a regular dictionary.
Ah,
nice and agreed. Get rid of Mark. Because I want you all to go through this because I don't want you to accept
Talking to
what I'm
Mike,
saying.
guys.
Are we clear? Because keep in mind, whenever we speak here, there's trolls all over this country trying to counter this stuff
Islam.
because they know that people don't have reference points.
Islam.
He's creating confusion. He's lying. He's making that sandwich up. That's because once you get the truth, you ain't giving Reverend Potbelly no more of your pennies, are you? And your peanut butter sandwich, and you definitely ain't going to deliver your babies to them, are you? Then they also got some explaining to do, don't they? But you know what they do? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, the devil's going to get you. Don't question the word of the Lord of London. Oh, I mean London. The Lord. And it's really the Lord's of London. Under the secret tree of Verona. Write that down too. Now, secret tree of Verona. I want you to write that down. And since you're on the internet, I want you to look up secret tree of Verona, hand it to her, and let her read Article 3, which is the oath of the clergy that are submitting the people to Jesus. Look up the secret tree of Verona. Now, keep in mind, you're the source of their wealth. And then they use it against you and to destroy your families. Now, keep in mind, you know the DuPont family?
Yeah.
I know you're because their base is here in this territory. Are we clear? You know why they banned marijuana, what's called hemp? Now, I don't smoke, so it don't make a difference to me. But actually, it's one of the healing foods, and it's actually, they used to make strong ropes with it. And it's also food. It's also a healer. They banned it and made it unlawful so it wouldn't compete with the nylon industry when they used to make nylons for women during the Second World War in that area. Had nothing to do with anything else. How many people know that? Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm talking real truth of legislation, what really took place.
I didn't know that, but I know that you can make a lot of products. Tires, baskets, hats.
Everything is one of your most useful plants. Now, and that's not defending
And
people's
it
use
grows
of it.
wild.
Oh yeah, of course, and it's very strong. However, the point of it is our concepts about everything is incorrect.
Come on.
Are we clear? We're under mind control, and it's all done by the bishopric of Rome. Are we clear? You got the secret treaty of Rome? Now, I just want you to read the first three, give her the mic. Well, give it to her. No, because you read something, give it to her. We're going to put you to work.
Here we go.
You got the mic.
Yeah, read it.
Now, I know you got the mic.
You got the girl.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, right. Well, do your thing. Go ahead. Yeah, I got the mic. Now, the secret treaty of Verona. This is one of the fundamental treaties that's operating under the Holy See, under the Inquisition operations for domination on the planet Earth. Are we clear? Now, I want you to read Article 1. Now, just read the entry so everyone's familiar, so you all write this down. Go ahead, read the entry. It's congressional records. Go. I mean, you can sing too if you wanted to give us a couple verses. I don't know what you said was in the mic. Go ahead. Oh, he's ducking. He's ducking. But
Secret Treaty of Verona.
now,
Article 1.
no. Make them know that it's congressional records.
This is the
so they don't
congressional
think-
record. It's
Because these people
64.
think that this stuff is secret. It's only secret to people who don't read.
Public information. This is Congressional Record, Senate, 64th Congress, First Session, Volume 53, Part
Now.
7, page 6781, April 25th, 1916.
Thank you. Continue.
I wish to put in the record the secret treaty of Verona of November 22nd, 1822, showing what this ancient conflict is between the rule of the few and the rule of the many. I wish to call the attention of the Senate to this treaty because it is the threat of this treaty which was the basis of the Monroe Doctrine. It throws a powerful white light upon the conflict between the monarchical government and government by the people. The Holy Alliance, under the influence of Metternich and the Premier of Austria in 1822, issued this remarkable secret document, American Diplomatic Code 1778 through 1884, Volume 2, Elliott, page 179. The undersigned, specially authorized to make some additions to the Treaty of the Holy Alliance after having exchanged their respective credentials, having agreed as follows. Secret Treaty of Verona, Article 1. The high contracting powers, being convinced that the system of representative government is equally and incompatible with the monarchical principles as the maxims of sovereignty of the people with the high divine right, engage mutually in the most solemn manner to use all their efforts to put an end to the system of representative governments in whatever country it may exist in Europe, and to prevent its being introduced to those countries where it is not yet known. Go to Article 3.
Now, That Article 1 is the problem that you're having now in the fundamental politics. And it has everything to do with the coup d'etat that took place in 1861, where Lincoln was the last lawful president of the United States. And it was incorporated in order to enslave the descendants of the Canaanite Moabites, who they branded black, who are the people of the land, and is presented to the unknowing as slavery, which has been institutionalized. Article 1 is the root of it. Are we clear? And is the problem going on now? You notice that it's 1916. What did they set up with Woodrow Wilson? Federal Reserve Board for the Jesuit Order and the Inquisition Revenue Services, which is Torquemada's operations, which is called the Internal Revenue Service. They just gave it a different name. The Inquisition never ended. They just changed the names for people who don't know history, can't read, and they're raping you today with the Inquisition Revenue Services that have nothing at all to do with legitimate government, but is the tithing of Rome on their serfs who think they got a color problem. They don't even know the color means artificial person. They think it means African identity because they can't damn read. Read on. This is the oath of the clergy. Yeah, read it. Go ahead.
Article 2 of the Secret Treaty of Verona. As it cannot be doubted that the liberty of the press is the most powerful means used by the pretended supporters of the rights of nations to the detriment of those princes, the high contracting parties promise reciprocally to adopt all proper measures to suppress it, not only in their own states, but also in the rest of Europe.
Now, is there any wonder why the operatives on our side got rid of Noble Drawley's press and jumped it? Is that just circumstantial, or does it have a political root? And they never reestablished it, did they? But they attack guys like Taji guy for telling the truth, don't they? Continue.
Article 3.
Is the clergy's oath
Convinced that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep nations in the state of passive obedience.
Repeat.
Convinced that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep nations in the state of passive obedience, which they owe to their princes, the high contracting parties declare it to be their intention to sustain in their respective states those measures which the clergy may adopt, with the aim of ameliorating their own interests, so intimately connected with the preservation of the authority of the princes. And the contracting powers join in offering their thanks to the Pope for what he has already done for them, and solicit his constant cooperation in their views of submitting the nation.
I thought it was Jesus, and I thought they were submitting the people to Jesus. That's their oath. That's in the congressional records. Is that hidden?
Nope.
Does POPE say Jesus? Just an honest question. That's the record. And these people think the politicians don't understand this, and that the clergy don't understand this, and they wonder why their communities are destroyed. That's congressional. Is that buried under the two pyramids in Egypt? Does that take an interpretation of the ancient scripts of Mizraim? Oh, this question.
Convinced that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep nations in the state of passive obedience.
So they're giving the people dogma in the name of religion. It's mind control.
And then it goes on, ultimately, and the contracting powers.
They're in contract, aren't they?
join in offering their thanks
Collude. Continue.
to the Pope.
Oh, wait a minute, back up.
To the offering, join, and the contracting powers join in offering their thanks to the Pope.
I thought they thanked the Lord.
Thanks to the Pope for what he has already done for them.
So they've been colluding for quite some time, haven't they?
And solicit his constant cooperation in their views of submitting the nations.
So I thought they were being submitted to Jesus and to the Lord.
Isn't that a Roman ticket?
Wait, hold on.
Wait for the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
Isn't that a Roman ticket on an Egyptian title or something like that?
No, well, Pope, yes, is really a title for federal. Because they steal the birthright. That's what we talk about in Genesis 25, 2 and 5 and 7. Rebecca, Isaac, Esau, Jacob. First and second book of Thessalonians and Septuaginta in the Bible. When it says, remember that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, that they put themselves on the throne of God, claim to be God. Have they not done so? Yes. Have they not done so?
Yes.
Yes, they have.
They have done so.
Have these people keep saying they loving Jesus?
Yes, they do.
Have the clergy be saying they've been delivering these people to Jesus?
Yes, they do.
They've been delivering them to Constantine. Is it any wonder why these communities are so destroyed? Why marriages don't work? Why poverty is great, but yet everybody comes in our communities and get wealthy because these people don't even know they have a birthright. They don't even know anything about the world's global estate trust because nobody tells them. But yet, all these clergy get a piece of the action every time they deliver one of them certificates down there to the Bureau of Vital Statistics, which is registered in the Commerce Department. It's human trafficking. Can be traced. That's a fact. Go ahead.
I was reading some history on the Roman Empire a few years ago, and I found out that the empire had a standard operating procedure of going into a target area to conquer it, leave a few people alive to farm, and then at the appropriate time come back, take at least half the crop, and leave the rest just for them long enough to feed themselves and produce more crop.
It's called sharecropping.
It sounds good.
That's where the sharecropping has its root. Go ahead. Go ahead, sis. I want you to read Nicene Council. I can't hear you.
I can't see it.
Oh,
I got something for
we
you.
got some. Look.
You pay it, man. Yeah. This is yours too.
That's all right. That's all right.
Do you think? And the reason, and again, and this is the point. See, when you read it, it's yours, right?
Yeah.
Don't accept what Taj guy's saying. This is your stuff. But keep in mind, people around you have been playing you all the time. You know what they say about our people? If you want to hide something from the monkeys, put it in a book.
Oh, my.
Or do like this, right under their noses. Hide it in plain sight, because they do not deal with facts. They're the only beings that deal with beliefs that we control and we give them. And they blame it on God's and Jesus's and Muhammad's, who had nothing at all to do with it. And they help us murder them when they come to liberate the people. And that's true. And they didn't even change the system. They do it over and over again. And the people fund them. You know and I know, if this conversation that we're having right now was just a loose conversation on the street, people would be throwing bricks at us. And old stinky sneaks. Talking about we got devils and everything. You ain't a believer. You don't know the Lord in this. All that kind of stuff. And be mad at you for sincerely hoping that you die.
And we bring our babies
As
to
birds,
the
they hope lightning will come down and strike you in the middle of the street. And they're all claiming to be godly and love. They're dangerous. They're dangerous. to themselves and everybody else.
And the mothers bring their children, their babies to them
To train them.
in droves. When you think about that process.
But keep in mind, that's from write this down, psychic attacks. Psychic attacks. Psychic attacks have been put upon the Asiatic woman for generations, since she actually, in her belief system, is actually living in a state of trauma. And this is, so you sons, the brothers, so we can kind of understand some of the problems we have with our women, it's because they're not our women, they belong home. We don't talk about these things because we're not honest. But we know. Now, my family's barbers too. In the barbershop, men will talk about things that they talk about nowhere else. It's like a psychologist chair.
Right.
It's true. It's like women go to the hairdresser and they talk about things that they don't talk anywhere else. Well, men do the same thing in the barbershop. They come out and they change up back to that cover that they have, the mask, whatever. And we're never honest with each other. One of the major problems that y'all have with us, with most of these men, I'm telling you as a man, because I'm being honest, is that we don't believe that you really love us. And that's true.
Teach right there.
And it's because of training. And the point is that we don't know, most men don't know that the women are in a state of trauma. They think that they're coming from their own mind. They don't even know it's been trained for generations under the Christian black codes to destroy the family. What is it when you talk to many men who will open up, and they rarely do, but when they do open up, one of the major complaints that most men have with their women is that, particularly if they have men who's busting their butt, as they would say, working 2 jobs to maintain their family, that their woman's trying to emasculate them. And that's part of the training under the Christian black codes. It's designed to destroy the family. It's not our culture. It's what is subtly groomed into us generation after generation. Many Asiatic men who will not admit it publicly will run seeking other women to escape their own. Not because they're really attracted to the other women. It's because they're trying to find happiness that they think they don't have. Think they don't have. Are we clear?
Wow.
You know how many men will not admit what I just said, but yet that is true with a lot of our men? They won't even admit it to each other. But if you force them into a real close contract, you know what they'll say? They go amongst other nations, like you see other Asiatic women, they be working with their husbands. In business, everything, our women be talking about wearing somebody else's hair, wearing somebody else's nails, and don't want to get their nails dirty. But they want all the trappings. And so that's a concept that a lot of our men have about our women. So they just do relationships last a couple of years, but they don't try to build anything because they don't think they're going to be able to survive it. Because usually the corporate state will come after the family anyway to tear it apart. And usually the women will cooperate with the corporate state.
Islam.
I see that happen.
No, we're talking about what is a problem with our men, but they won't say it to their women. You know they don't. I'm just being honest. And so we got work to do amongst ourselves, but we got to be honest. But we got to recognize that's dead culture. That's not really our culture. In other words, we're affected by it. But that comes from generations of training and mind control. You'll find it in Rex 84, military operations, solid weapons for quiet wars. You'll find it in King Alfred. You'll find it in Christian Black Codes of 1724, adopted in all the states when they closed the Freedmen's Bureau. In 1868, that's when they created the straw man as an operational politics against the Asiatics of the North Gate. Although they used it against even some of the European sons and daughters today, that was a target on the Moors who were branded Negro, black, and colored. And the Europeans put their name on them so that whatever they buy or sell, the mark or the number of that name is state property. That's why people going around doing business, Smith, Jones, and Johnson type thing, and wonder why we don't own anything. As a matter of fact, they even made a clothing line called State Property, and our people are proud of it. And yet that's 14th Amendment. And they are state property, like for real.
Islam.
And they think it's cool. Now, I want you to read, say again? I got 125 glasses. You want them too? Because you're going to work this night. You're going to stay. She ducked. You're over there grinning. She ducked. Yeah, right here. Just 125. Say it again. Oh, come on.
Sister Reed.
Look, we're home in the house of reawakening mind.
Islam.
Come on up. Come on. And anyone, sisters, I'd rather y'all do it because you're the target.
Yes.
And we're appealing to you
Yes.
because we got to work together to fix this thing between us
Sister gonna read
so
right.
that we can clean up for the next generation. Come on. These are 125s.
I don't need no glasses.
I got peanut butter sandwiches for us. Do the yellow marker so you can mark it. Nicene Council. And you also see, it will tell you Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. Are we clear? Give it a yellow marker. Because when you find it, I want you to mark it. That'll usually highlight. Here. You highlight it first and then read it. And this is so it can be referenced in the future. Now notice that we're having you all do the work. Thank you, Dr. Nayo. You're so considerate as usual. Now the point that we're saying to you, you can go home and find this stuff on your own shelf, and it's been there all the time. All right? We're going to talk about heritability. All right? And it's still back to the same principle. All of your economic and political problems are rooted in the Spanish Inquisition.
Yes.
All of them. All of the wars that have been taking place on planet Earth around the world is rooted in the Spanish Inquisition. Are we clear? All of your economic problems and family breakups are rooted in the Spanish Inquisition. Are we clear? The lack of education for your children, the capacity or the incapacity to read is rooted in the Spanish Inquisition. Are we clear? Your Job, you can see in the Bible, Job. The reason all your stuff has been taken from you, Spanish Inquisition. And you've been trained by your leader guys and leader girls to talk about somebody didn't like the color of my skin, and so that's why I'm broke. They're racist, and so that's why I'm broke. That's training. All of it's a false argument. Totally false argument. Inquisition. And it's operative. Your congressmen know it. Your leader guys know it. Your leader girls know it. The leaders of these churches, mosques, and synagogues all know it. All of the Masons got a Moorish fez and pretend they don't know these people are Moors. And they got a 501c3 Skull and Bones agreement set up by Lyndon Baines Johnson after they got rid of Kennedy to control their marching Negro leader guys to keep the BS going while pretending the devil is doing this stuff to you. Now that's the truth. So rather than tell you, I'm having you read it. So you can't say, well, Taj said that, and I didn't know whether to believe or not. No, it's the dictionary. It ain't even deep research. That's the point that I'm making to you. Go ahead. Go ahead, say what it is.
Okay, this definition is coming from Webster's New International Dictionary, 6th edition.
Go ahead.
And it reads, Nicene Creed, a
Stay
confession,
in
a Nicene Creed, a confession formulated and decreed by the First Council of Nicaea, AD 325, in opposition to Arianism and reaffirmed by the First Council of Constantinople.
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 Get it right because get used to it because that's what these people have been doing.
Constantinople. AD 381. It was based on the ancient creed church of Syria, into which were introduced certain critical changes and additions.
So they took ancient scripts and ancient principles and what modified them in order to create confusion. It's the Bishop of Rome that did it. Does that have, what part does it say Jesus did it?
I don't see that in here.
Of course it did, because it was the Bishop of Rome. It was formulated by them. Continue.
Consubstantial with the Father, of the essence of the Father, etc. To exclude Arian views which were further condemned in a series of anathemas. B. An expanded form of foregoing read at the Council of Chaldea, okay, 451, as the creed of the Council of Constantinople, hence called also Niceno Constantinopolitan
Creed. That's the official name of Christianity. Is it hidden? Is it hidden? Is it hidden? How many of them buildings they got, and you can't go 4 blocks in any direction in any small city in our community and not find one of them buildings that these people are indebted to up to here. Mortgage to the hilt, and they charge Jesus with it. And it's really Constantine. You know and I know, if most of you said this to your family members, without reference, they'd accuse you of having the devil. And that you made this up, and you're going to hell. You're going to hell. They would, wouldn't they? Yeah. And yet, look at the misery in our communities. You step down off the grand steps of these grand buildings, look in front of you, then look left, then look right, and all you see is poverty.
2,000 years.
And these guys in these fancy robes are stealing the widow's pennies. That's what Yahshua was arguing about. Are we clear? But they say they love Jesus. They're liars, and they're liars, and their hearts are far removed. They're saying, Lord, Lord, all this stuff all day long. And they've been worshiping Constantine. What they think that divine don't recognize our hypocrisy just because we've polished it. That's what I want to bring to your attention. Just because we've polished our hypocrisy, nature doesn't recognize our hypocrisy. She deals with merit and merit alone. Are we clear? The conditions of our community is your proof. Listen, you come to the house with great weight in your mind, but somebody was asking me earlier, they still cooking there? I said, yeah, we be hooking up sometime, you know. Now, so Dr. Nail, we said, we're going to cook some cakes and stuff. Oh, yeah. Come to think of it. You did?
No, I didn't.
Anyway, yeah, it got me thinking. Anyway, you know, so we say we're gonna hook up Dr. Nail's special recipe, pineapple upside down cake, right? Yeah, so Taji guy going over here cooking. Yeah, he be in here, man, with the cake and stuff. Y'all all fired up and everything. And you got these little dark cookies. They both made the dough, but at what point you don't understand the cookie ain't a cake? In other words, the results is your evidence. Are we clear? For all the spirituality that our people keep claiming to have, look at our communities, look at our broken families, look at the private POW camps called jails that are packed with our men, and women are the fastest current growing population in the prisons, but all these people are saved and all them claim to be spiritual, and they don't catch on that something is wrong here. And that we shouldn't have to have this discussion for them to accept that they need to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Caesar's the Pope of Rome, the Bishop of Rome, which is rooted in our community, and the destruction that goes with it is accompanying it. You know, it's sort of like, you know, like I'm inviting y'all to my private pool at my mansion, right? At the recirculation camp. And it's a cesspool. And you see people in there backstroking and all this stuff. They come out and they'll say, hey, I like that bathing suit and everything. Yeah, that's tight. Damn. Whoa. What we need is our own perfume factory. No, you need to stop jumping in the cesspool. What point we don't understand this? That our condition is a reflection of the dead culture we're living, accept that we've been wrong, and be willing to change your position. Continue to read.
This creed differs from the first only in the substitution of before all ages for the words from the substance of the Father, God of God, the addition of the clauses on the Holy Ghost, the church, baptism, and the resurrection, and the omission of the anthemus. It is the creed used in the Eastern churches. A form now is in use in the Western church, identical with the preceding except for the addition of the Phylloquy clause and the restoration of the words God of God.
Now, the point being made, well, not really making the point, you're simply reading it, and it's absolutely obvious. Is it apparent to these people, the average person that you see that go to those buildings, do they know that history about what they themselves have been supporting for generations? I'm going to ask the question again. Do most of the people you know that history that you just read about these institutions that they themselves have been supporting financially and economically? But yet they're complaining about their condition, aren't they? Yeah. And they're waiting for salvation from their negative condition, aren't they? Yeah. But they're funding their negative condition, aren't they? Yes. How many people know what this symbol is? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Come on. What do you mean you don't know what it is? Go ahead. Look around the room, y'all. I mean, we got 5 people out of the crew and 6 people out of the crew. All right. Look, I seen that. All right. Now, in German, this is also called the Coptic cross, right? In German, this is called Church. Are we clear? In German, this symbol is called Church, what you call church. Are we clear? In philosophy, metaphysical philosophy, it would be modified and would be called the mundane cross, which means the earth cross. Are we clear? It is on this principle, what is called, like in the book of Revelation, I think about 22 chapter, which says 3 in the north, 3 in the south, 3 in the east, and 3 in the west. So you're going to see it for yourself. And that is this that you will see. Excuse me. And Jesse means what? Numbers. Decimal. Or degrees. In here, you got 90 degrees. 90 degrees. 90 degrees. 90 degrees. And from beginning to end in the circle. And church means the great circle. Did you know that too, in German? Are we clear? That's what it means in Germanic. That's right. How many people go to church and don't know that church means circle? And that church is not necessarily the building, church is that symbol. It becomes a church when this symbol is set upon it. And the bishop's job is to remove it or protect the symbol. And that principle is maintained in different secret societies even to this day. Are we clear? You go to any old graveyards in any churches, and that's what you're going to see. In the modern world, they removed the circle off of it. Are we clear? Are we clear? Now, each one of these got 10 degrees. 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 30 degrees, and each one of these have 10, 10, 10. Are we clear? Those degrees that dance around this church is called, what is it called, y'all? Deaconess. Deaconess. It's called deaconess. Deaconess.
That's it.
This is where they get deacon in the church from.
Yep.
Are we clear? Your 4 gates. Right? And it would be reversed. This would be reversed according to the position that you're in, coming in or going out.
That's right.
This is where the high priesthood does a calculation of the heavens, like you see when they talk about them calculating the Nazarene's birth, and they say the 3 wise men followed the stars. They were MAs, or master astrologers, to calculate the cycles of the moon, which coordinates the cycles of the womb and the birth of life. And women who are wise women know how to use that womb to bring to earth our ancient ancestors, rebodied to do certain work.
Drawing down the room.
Those women would be called special queens that know themselves. And they will solve the planet because they will use that uterus, that holy cross, properly to bring to the earth champions who are necessary to redeem humanity. That's the prophets who are born. And those women are called virgin mothers. Are we clear? It doesn't mean she wasn't getting down. It just means that it's from here. Are we clear? Now, these are broken down into 30s and 10s, and those would be the deaconess. Are we clear? These points here, those 4 points, would be called cardinal points. This is when you get your cardinal in the church. So when them bishopric keep talking about they don't know that Bible's a cosmology book, they're lying. But they don't want you to know it. Are we clear? Now, when you read in the Nicene Council and the controversy about Arianism, right? And the keeping of East Star. Now you understand when women know the knowledge, they call them Eastern stars.
Yeah.
And you look right here in the eastern sky, and you'll see this. The crescent moon, and not far from it, you'll see Jupiter or Venus. The bright star in heaven, this is where you get Cosmo, or the symbol of the crescent and the star. And people think that just means Islam. That's ancient. That's the workings of heaven. And you will see it very clearly around March, the 3rd moon month, 21st, which is 3. See, Jesus died 33 degrees. 33. And it's called Astarte, springtime, the vernal equinox, East Star.
Yep.
They'll pass over and they'll change the date politically so that people can't trace that as cosmology.
Celebration of fertility.
Oh, thank you so much. That's why they got the bunny rabbit, chicken eggs, palm trees and all that kind of stuff. And it's in your face, isn't it? It's the workings of nature. Are we clear?
Right.
It's not to be rejected because you ain't in this belief or that belief. That's the workings of nature. Are we clear? And it begins in the east, doesn't it? Now you want to see why the seed of mothers pray east. And then you see, like in the Bible, in the Septuagint, when it talks about the rescue by the Nazarene of the people of his own who rejected him, he says, I come from the east, even unto the west, seeking my lost sheep. Who are they? They are my own. And I came among them, but they received me not. But they worship in Rome, ain't they? And catching hell, aren't they? And they wait for some Savior. Their concepts are all wrong about them books and about the prophets. However, the priesthood know this, but they will never teach it because it will liberate the people from them. From them. Islam, go ahead, good brother.
I just want to do a little, hopefully some clarity.
Go ahead.
I'm good, brother. I'm good.
Go ahead.
In the year 325 AD, 318 Catholic bishops got together on the Council of Nicaea to come up with the Nicene Creed, June 19, 325. Jesus is God, the fixing and dating of Easter, and of course Arius taught in opposition to the bishops of Alexandria and Alexander. In 381, which the sister was referencing, they came together again, the divinity to discuss or organize the divinity of the Holy Ghost. This is the first council of Constantinople, 150 bishops, making the Holy Spirit God, pneumatology, which is the study of the Holy Spirit. And then in 431 AD, 200 bishops, the Council of Ephesus, tribunes to come up with the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and decreed that Mary was Jesus, Mother of God.
And Mary is another name for the earth.
Islam.
It is. And so is Sheba.
And in 431, the Roman Catholic Church met with some resistance from the Druids and the Europeans that they practiced the one God. Well, in 432 AD, they went and got an ex-British slave named Patrick. Patrick went into Ireland to get rid of the snake people, or the history tells us, or drive out the snakes. He drove out the Druids, who wore the headdress of the ancient the cobra, and called the snake people. And today, Patrick slaughtered thousands of them that opposed the teachings, and 300 churches in Ireland. And today we celebrate that as St. Patrick's Day.
So in the east, when the sun rises and you have springtime, what is the constellation? Aries. See the Arian heresy? And everyone that was in the culture was called a heretic, and that's the fundamental of your Inquisition operations. And who's the Inquisition against? The Moors and Yahudi, which is the foundation of the entire modern world's politics.
Islam.
That's what the attack on you is. And the fact that women have been traumatized and they're afraid of Rome because Rome is their God, not Jesus, Allah, Moses, Muhammad, Buddha. They fear Rome. This is why when you tell them of their bloodline, most of them cringe. Yeah, but if I admit that I'm more, Rome gonna take my job. Rome ain't gonna give me no peanut butter sandwich. Rome is their God. Now, go on that dictionary. Matter of fact, go ahead.
I actually lived that moment. In 2013, I was getting tired. I had a job like everybody else. I haven't been working since then.
Yeah.
And what happened was, they asked me if I was trying to do a tax issue. There was something was wrong. There was some discussion for 2 years.
Yeah.
So what happened was, new personnel director came in. This was a nonprofit organization, so they're much worse than a for-profit organization.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay? And what happened was, I was going to challenge them, and she asked me if I was an American Indian. I had to say no, I'm not, but I'm native to this land. So a few months later, she was on a balcony. I was downstairs. I was going into the building for something else, and she screamed out saying, "Oh, you have to retire. You have to quit to get out of the tax thing." Whatever, well, I forget, but that was the discussion. There was a lot of discussion about me and not paying taxes and stuff like that.
And that's not really it. All you need to do is hold them to the Constitution.
Well, it didn't matter because
yeah, I know, but
I was tired.
I was
there 26 years. So
no, that's not it. That's not the point. The point of it is it was an invitation to fraud. You don't quit to get out of tax. You hold them to the constitutional principle.
Islam.
I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Research.
Okay, the reason why they said that.
I know why she said it.
They were
in a quandary.
Well, they didn't want me to. They didn't want to go through the.
They didn't want you to continue to work there
without.
And then because they live off of you.
They had to kick that. Yeah.
Because the job is a job. You're not paid. The Federal Reserve note set up by the Jesuits in 1916, etc., in 1913, is for bookkeeping purposes only.
And it's also an administrative process after 1868.
Yeah, this is for everyone. It's private, commercial paper, not money. It's for bookkeeping purposes only to measure the energy output of the servants. They're trained that it's money. The same way they're trained that they got religion. The same way they're trained that they have jurisprudence, law. They have color of law. They're designated as colored people. They have dogma, not religion. And they have fiat, not money. The training of all Privy Council is to keep them in that state of mind. And they set up a couple of Negro colleges deliberately to prepare men that they call men of color, which means artificial person, distinguished from that which is real, to guide their own people into the faith of the popes of Rome under the guise of God and Jesus, while they themselves in secret got 32 to 33 degrees in Mason, got the compass and the square, which is called the carpenter's tools, and they take an oath to Rome, Article 3 of that secret treaty of Verona, and they keep this Negro game going on in our community while pretending they don't know what's wrong. And every last one of them have been taken to the mountaintop. And the mountaintop's on the back of that Federal Reserve note. Looks like there's a pyramid. Got the eye of Allah at the top. And it's got a shadow that casts in the east. And the shadow continues underneath the pyramid on the sand. And they have an acacia bush growing in the corner, in the east corner. And then you bring that to the earth. And for those of you who don't know what this is, you can look on that note, that debt note that you got, that they've been training you as a dollar, which is a debt note. Note and dollar don't go together. You'll see this. Pull out a note and look at it. Define the law of physics. And you'll see a acacia bush growing here. So what occurs, you bring that to earth. Right? Acacia bush is here, the shadow's here, and it becomes a 7. That's in the book of Revelation. It's called the 7th seal. And you'll see beneath that seal it says, the Great Seal. And they hide it right in people's faces. And they think they have money, don't they? Don't they? But they don't even read the 7 articles of the Constitution. And what does the Constitution say? No state shall make anything but gold and silver coin as payment in debt. They don't even know what money is. And then they take their private commercial paper and then tax them on that, sending them to hell. Black's Law Dictionary, hell. Hell. Give him a highlighter if you need it.
I had a comment.
Okay, wait, yes.
Prophet told us to study, and do research on the taxes going into the regulations, which are implementing details for the statutes passed by Congress, done on the administrative side. Earlier versions used to explicitly say that some forms of income are constitutionally exempt.
Say it.
Earlier versions of the regulations implementing Title 26
yes, Title 26
used to explicitly state
yes.
that some forms of income were constitutionally exempt.
All right, now let's say this, and Dr. Naila, we're going to do confused about taxes. So write that down, hold me to it. There's some other things where we're going to deal with that. Income does not apply to labor and wages. How many of you know that? How many of you know that? All right. How many people got regular JOBs have been paying income taxes? Admitting to be a foreign corporation operating in a port of a foreign nation, which is what that means. Did you know that? Give her the mic, because
I was looking things up recently about the IRS,
Talking to
operating a corporation, anything where I'm paying to it. So I started wondering why I'm sitting being taxed on my growth.
Now, should you be wondering or should you be reading?
I was reading.
No, when I say you, I'm talking about us in general. How many people fill out forms, make applications, work their butt off, paying income taxes, and never looked up what income tax is? Income tax is a tax levied against foreign corporations doing business in a corporate capacity only, and does not apply to the living man or woman's labor or ordinary wages. It doesn't apply to that whatsoever. Therefore, it's not a tax exempt, it's non-obligatory. However, when you let them trick you into signing those W's, yes, 4s, you've given them permission to convert your private labor to support the bishopric's private debt of the United States Service Corporation and its oligarchical team private debt that was busted in 1860, and assume all future liabilities with your labor as a pledge. And if you don't complete the pledge, you pledge your life and your time. I mean, they can throw you in jail because it's a contract.
So this refers back to the
Get the
black
mic,
codes?
because we don't hear.
This refers back to like the black codes?
Of course it's the Christian black codes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the dealers are people, because they don't read, they don't see the connection. Subject matter, Inquisition. The source of Rome's wealth is you. We're your sons, so you come first anyway. So when they got you, they got us. This is why they have the Sphinx head with the Moorish sword above, which means the subjugation of the Moabite woman. Any secret society in Europe, in Africa, in South America, in North America, the first lesson they give anyone that's in any of those orders is Ruth the Moabitess. Who is Ruth the Moabitess? Yahushua's great-great-grandmother. Who is Yahushua? The one they call Jesus. Who is he? He is the bloodline of these people who today think that human beings are crayons because they don't know their own pedigree. And they're in servitude to them same Romans that murdered all the prophets. And then accused Jesus of participating in the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed and say that he brought that in a cloud of glory from heaven for the salvation of humanity. And it's Constantine and his mother. And they've been worshiping Constantine in the name of Jesus, funding their own enslavement and fighting all the wars for Rome against their own people, going to and fro the earth, devouring nations, while their nationality has been removed, and they ain't caught on it yet. And you talk to them about nationality and they get cross-eyed like they don't know what you're talking about. But yet they read them books. And the book says what nations will rise against nations, etc. And you talk to these people about nationality, and then we talk about, what's that? I don't have no nationality, I got color. I got light skin, orange skin, black girlfriend. And think that stuff is real. And wonder why the civilized world rejects these people who refuse to honor their mothers and their fathers, but they're always marching all over the place and complaining about their condition. Islam.
What part of the
Give
Bible
him the mic.
was the seven?
Right.
What part of the Bible was the seven in?
That's in the book of Revelation, the opening of the seven seals. I'll give you another key. In the book of John, when you open up in Revelation, it says, I saw one, I heard one speak with a voice of many waters. And he was standing among 7 golden candlesticks. Them 7 golden candlesticks is what you see in the church, mosque, and synagogue, but they also represent the 7 ruling planets in this particular solar system. It also represents the 4-3. And the 4-3 is 4 gates. You got 4 gates, 3 in each gate. That's 7. Are clear? Or sometimes referred to as 7 in the circle, or circle 7. And then you have what is called the aggregate. So this would be called aggregate. Aggregate symbolizes physicality. Now, when you get into the abstract, you would deal with this, and where these gates are open like this, you would complete this. Right? And then you take the math of that and you put it in the circle. Now it's abstract. So now you're dealing in what you call religious philosophy. Okay, so now you need to know the science of life. Not the belief of life, the science of life. Are we clear? However, it's the same thing. The priesthood know, but they would never tell the believers. Why? Why? Few pieces of silver. They sold you out. Do you understand? They work for Rome. They don't work for you. They don't work for no Jesus, no God, no Allah. They work for Rome. And they've been delivering you to Rome. Saying they're delivering these people to Jesus. Are we clear? So their job is trained to keep you passive in the name of religion so that you don't compete with the corruption of the priesthood, because in most of these people's mind, they think that the politicians and the priesthood are separate. They are partners.
Islam.
And both of them got their hand in your pocket on both sides, pointing at the mystical devil over there in the woods. Yeah, devil, you broke because of the devil. Oh, damn, I'm gonna kick the devil's ass. Let's raise some money, raise some more money, and kick the devil's ass. They got their hand in your pocket. People come in the buildings, come in the building, yeah, man, I'm going to pray on this thing. Pray, P-R-E-Y. Let's get this clear. Make this distinction. And they've been praying on these people, right? So people come to the buildings, everything, you know. I had a word on my back and everything. And then I came to see Reverend Jones and I came out on all light-footed and everything just because my pockets is empty. I ain't spiritual. I lost weight. And Wayne Jenny Craig. And that's the truth. But these people are so naive, they don't get it yet. These people have been selling them broke gods, and when that wears out, they give them another broke god. Always broke. Always broke. And adults can't figure it out. Reverend Jones got $3,000 suit there. I'm telling you, these people is different. Go ahead, brother.
Black's Law, 5th edition, Hell.
Go ahead, y'all. Listen.
The name formerly given in England.
Formerly. Go ahead.
The name formerly given in England to a place under the Exchequer chamber where the king's debtors were confined. Hell.
So hell was really a chamber underneath the church. And anyone that didn't pay the tithe, it was put in hell. See where the psychology of hell being down on the ground, where that psychology came from?
Islam. Go to hell.
Yes. And so the executors now, they give them checks now, don't they? Checks. They think they got money, don't they? They don't even know the origin of things. Therefore, it's our duty to teach the people. Are we clear? It's your duty to study and to liberate yourself. Are we clear? Unfortunate, but let's get real. That's why we're in trouble. Because they hide it in your face. And because we've been groomed in this false paradigm, our culture rises around it. Because we build around what we believe. Are we clear? Not what we know, what we believe. Are we clear? Now again, how many of you got Wardship Dispeller? Wardship Dispeller. You got Wardship Dispeller? Y'all got this?
Yes.
So keep this in mind. The same symbol like this would be the master seal. And this is people who have your PhDs in philosophy. This still is this. Are we clear? Those of you who are engineers, who understand engineering, right? And you see this. That's the glyph that's used to symbolize the earth. Are we clear?
Right.
All of these things are relative. When you see the high priest go like this, he said, I rule the earth. That's what he's saying. And y'all saying, oh, it's not me baloney. No, you better leave that vampire alone. And stop funding him, because he's feeding on you and feeding on your babies. And then you keep delivering your babies to them in the name of Lord in heaven is the Lords of London. And that's just the truth. And I'll just give you a little bit. This can go deeper mathematically, but this should be enough to wake you up. It's not to be rejected, it's to be comprehended, to understand. This is earth culture. Are we clear?
Gotcha.
Yes, good. Now, go back to the 3 candlesticks. Now, when you go into ancient Hikupta, is what all priests know as Egypt. That's a modern sociological name for Hikupta. Are we clear? This is where you get Ptah from. And also in the Bible, we get Peter from. You understand? Hikupta.
Three counts.
That's what they call Egypt. That ain't Egypt, it's Ethiopia. All right? And the priesthood take the top and get Peter. And from that, boom, the so-called father. Now you see the fake authority they use, claiming under the Inquisition that they're taking charge of the earth in the name of Jesus and are sanctioned themselves as God of the earth, and they kill anyone who does not submit. Now you understand what the Spanish Inquisition is all about? And then they say that Peter was Jesus' friend. Right? He said, I'm your boy, Jesus and stuff. You know, we go way back and stuff. And so Yahshua said, oh, you boys, huh? We boys, huh? He said, get out of the boat, Peter. Yeah, so I'm your boy and stuff. See, because I'm, metaphysical and all that kind of stuff. So Yahshua said, go ahead, Pete. You down? Get out the boat. He said, nah, you roll like that. No, Pete. Get out the boat. Pete, see, because I'm real. And so Jesus pulled him out of water, which means, you damn hypocrite, you don't have the science, you're front. And what is the whole Constantinian creed based on? Peter and Paul. Is it not? Islam. And people defend it, don't they? It's Constantine and his mother who called the meeting near Nicaea for world conference purposes. How many bishops did they murder who didn't go along the game? Over 300. Go do the research. It's called casting out the window. Now, brother, you're a traveling man. And I know that you heard this phrase, casting out the window, or throwing out the window. This is when people ask pertinent questions to anyone in any secret society, and the code is casting out the window. That means they divert your question or shut you down. And that came from the Nicene Council, where they murdered bishops and clergymen who wouldn't go along with them altering the books out of its original tongues for world conference purposes. They murdered them, and then they came up with the Nicene Creed after they got any opposition out of the way. And they've been doing it ever since. And these people have been charging Jesus with it, who had absolutely nothing to do with any of it. As a matter of fact, they were the ones who murdered him, used him as a front. Now that's a fact. Fam, I want you to go in the dictionary, and I want you to look up Jesus. Just grab one up there. There's two or more up there. There's two right there. Right. Now, I'm taking you all through these fundamentals to show you that this stuff is available to anyone. Are we clear? But to also to show you how naive we are. And to show you how often we've been deceived by people who's supposed to be telling you the truth about these books. And they're wealthy at your expense. We already showed you their secret oath. Now, so, Pamela,
Yes.
look up Jesus, mark it out, and give us, and go all the way down and show his real name and spell it.
Okay. Jesus. J-E-Z-E-S. A masculine personal name. Hebrew, the Lord is salvation. Jesus, the source of Christianity, probably living.
Probably. What does the book say? It came from the popes of Rome. It came from the bishopric meeting at council. Ain't no probably came from Jesus. It came from the bishopric of Rome at a council meeting. Continue.
Probably living from 6 BC to AD 29 or 30. Son of Mary, regarded in all Christian faith as Christ, the Messiah, hence also Jesus Christ. Jesus, the son of Sirach, lived about the 3rd or 4th century BC, author of Ecclesiastes.
So you actually talk about more than one personality, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but continue.
That's it.
All right, doesn't it show you the spelling in Hebrew down at the bottom? His true name? Yeshua. Yes, Yeshua, spell it. Give him the mic. I want.
It doesn't say it up here. It's not in this one.
Well, he has it up here. But again, this is Child's Dictionary. There's high schools. Spell the name, get the mic.
From Hebrew, Yeshua, Y-E-S-H-U-A, from Yehoshua, Y upside down E, H-O-S-U-H-O-S-H-U-A, Joshua.
Do you hear them saying that in churches? Huh? Well, that's his name. Is that in ordinary dictionary? Is it available for anyone? Do you see the clergy saying that? Do they? There is no J in Hebrew. Go ahead, Sharif. In the mic. In the mic.
So in other words, what we're saying is that they took the prophet Yeshua true name and gave him
at the Nicene Council to hide the real history.
And gave him a
straw password. Yes, it's a straw. It's a straw. Now, so someone who's educating you come to you with what you know and then take you to what you didn't know. Now you understand why the prophet giving you the lessons of Jesus and says, I have the lessons, and then you go into Adept Chamber, which is Privy Council, and then you go into the Book of the East and you see Yahushua. Go ahead.
Like a Muslim, it's Ibn son of, it was Ben, son of Yusuf.
Yes.
And so they introduced themselves, son of whoever.
Yahushua ben Yusuf.
Yeah.
That's his name. It'll be Yahushua ben Yusuf. Yahushua, son of Yusuf. It ain't Joseph, it's Yusuf. But then they don't want you to know that his Muslim background, because they said that he's a Christian, which he was not. Doesn't make Christianity wrong. It's just that the one they talk about wasn't Christian.
It didn't exist.
Well, of course. Of course.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Like if you look in your first books, in the Septuaginta, it says the seven temples which were in Asia. Then they alter it and say the 7 churches which are in Asia. It didn't say 7 churches, it says 7 temples. You know, but again, those subtleties is how they put the people to sleep. You get the point?
Taj.
Go ahead.
So you said the 7 temples in Asia, right?
Which are in Asia when it talks about the delivery of the truth.
And
in the Revelation.
The 7 temples, that's in Asia. And one of the temples is supposed to be called Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Now, where they steal the birthright?
So that means that everybody...
Where did Rome steal the birthright?
In Philadelphia.
Oh, wait,
so that means that when the prophet throughout he said that we are Asiatics, he was telling the truth.
Of course it was.
It's right there, they say right there in front of us.
It's not secret. It's never been a secret.
So those people say we're not Asiatics.
But yet they say they love that book.
They don't read the Bible.
But they say they go for that book. But the deal of it is, keep in mind, the people are hypocrites. It's just that no one calls them on it. You get the point?
And nobody challenges Philadelphia. There's 3. One in Mississippi, here, and in Greece.
Exactly, sister cities.
And in Philadelphia, where there's going to be the change, the large convergence right here.
Of course.
I mean,
of course.
Yeah.
And this is why when they do the National Treasure, the movie National Treasure, and they show you that Egypt's right beneath your feet, and then what the woman was looking for to complete her coin collection, and she looked at a watermark in the page that all these decades no one recognized, and what was that watermark? The Great Seal. They be telling you, even in the movies, they telling you the history. But they know that our people don't read. They know they don't pay attention to details. They know they believe they deal with beliefs, not facts. So they can hide it right in your face. Go ahead, Isaiah, give him the mic. Islam.
The first light is represented to the masses, people, as belief. This is presented to small children, seed, to assist them in activating a consciousness of self and an appreciation of their loved ones and their environment. This elementary level is believer. The second light is represented as faith. This is the level of human development where the social skills are to improve with one's applied use of elementary tools and skills of social order, cosmology, and civilization. The faith level is scholar. The third light is represented as fruition. This is the level of human development where the being is no longer a child in mind, but know the self, is being self, knows of divine law, is capable of regurgitating the same in speech and writing. Further exercises of such are thus demonstrated in the life of being for the benefit of humanity, demonstrated in reasonable knowledge of the principal keys of civilization, known and applied. The fruition level is master. A master recognizes the relationship that every living thing has to every other living thing, and that all things occur by the law. Law governs all events. Thus, divine law that governs the universe are the objects of his or her study. A master seeks to rise above mere belief and has become a seeker of universal facts, truths, and knowing, gnosis. The master puts away his or her childish and vague concepts of the world, shunning ignorance, science, language, creativity, human progress. The enlightened and awakened self has accepted the responsibility to use the highest science known to man. That high science is called common sense. Common sense is applied in thinking, acting, and reasoning. Islam.
Now, whenever they introduce a candidate in any of the ancient mystery schools of Egypt or Egypt, they'll put you around, they'll have you in front of a cube, will be made, or an altar made of 7 rare woods, and usually dressed in silver and gold and sometimes with jewels according to how ancient it is. In the modern days, because of the expense, they're still expensive in the different lodges, but not as elaborate as in your most high secret society lodges. And these things are almost what they call priceless. And they would have it around it 3 candlesticks. And then they'd have the candidate kneel down in front of it on a pillow, and then they take their oath. And they usually put a bag over their head and a rope around their neck. Cable toe. Yeah, cable toe. You know, then you take oaths, etc. And every time you rise in degree, you go through another oath. Are we clear? And it's ancient. Now, all of your imams, rabbis, politicians, Knights Templars, Knights of Malta, Skull and Bones, Illuminati, priests, rabbis, etc., that's their degree.
Fruition.
The masses don't even know anything past this. Never even heard of this. But the people on this degree promote this among the masses to keep them under control. Now you see Article 3 of the Secret Treaty of Verona. Huh? Now you see also why they don't like Noble Ali. Why they didn't like Jesus, Yeshua, who brought it to the common people, but he challenged the doctors of the law with not telling the truth. And what were they doing? Doctoring up the law. And so the argument in the book about Yahushua, about Jesus, is not a new argument, for it repeats itself with every generation. And that is the dark priesthood hiding behind the word God and hiding behind Jesus and the prophets while actually being their enemies. And this is how the world has been run. Are we clear? Clear. And the Spanish Inquisition is at the root of all of it. Isn't it interesting how the masses, with all the problems we have, political and economic, most of the people aren't familiar with the Spanish Inquisition? I'm going to read a synopsis of this. But anyway, I'll show you some of the books that I have here. This is Spain and a short history of Spain. Right? Here, you can. This is Spanish Inquisition. This is one, I got about maybe 7 or 8 books in my library concerning this, some of them older. Yes, come on. Yeah. This is a book that all fundamental scholars have amongst their other dictionaries, 7-language dictionary. In other words, you start tracing. This is basic scholarship, are we clear? These are basic tools that you should have in your library. All right? This is so that when you're dealing with different languages, you can go back to its denotation, what things actually mean, and how they cross or morph into other languages. This is just one of your standard tools that you should have. Are we clear? Clear. All right? Not only your Black's Law Dictionary and your etymology on the English language, but these are just fundamental tools that should also be a part of your tools. Good. And this is an old book too. This is Halliwell's Dictionary of Archaic and Provincial Words. This would also be a good etymological tool. And some of these books are old and they will be expensive, but again, people spend a lot of finance for sneaks that with somebody else's name on them, but we don't invest in our own selves and in our own education. Okay. You know what I mean? So these are just, just a couple of books I brought with me. And you can reference these when you go into history, because keep in mind, in connotative linguistics, as the generations evolve, they would create what you call connotative presentments and present them as definitions. They're not the definitions and never were and never will be. Are we clear? Clear. And scholars know to use the tools to decipher or to go back to the mother or the etymon. Are we clear? Clear. The etymon in language is what an egg is to life in nature. So if you want to know the true meaning of something, go to its mother. And that's called the etymon. And the science is called etymology. All scholars are trained in that. And our children should be getting it in the 3rd grade. That's why they can't compete in the real world. Are we clear? Clear. And this is also why the Europeans say confidently that these people can't read. Why? Because he trained them in connotative linguistics. Doesn't mean they lack intelligence. It means they don't know the rules of basic elementary school grammar. And they'll sit up there and give you connotations as definitions when they're what? They're substitutes. Now you understand the substitute password that they talk about in Masonry? Substitute passwords. Now you understand Jesus is a substitute for Yahushua. The Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed is a substitute for the truth of the circle. And the people be thinking they've been told the truth for all these generations. And they've just been delivered to the very Romans that have murdered all the prophets and paid them. And wonder why their families have all broke up, why relationships don't work. while the IRS takes all of their stuff, while they foreclose and steal your property under the Spanish Inquisition, and it hasn't changed yet. Tulsa, Oklahoma, the bombing. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the bombing and the murder of MOVE members who would not take their children to Rome's church. They murdered them literally. Beautiful. Spanish Inquisition. Was no racism, it was the Spanish Inquisition that never ended. Are we clear? All the foreclosures that you see are Spanish Inquisition. The conversion of all allodial titles into mortgages and deeds since 1913. 1913. None of this stuff is accidental or circumstantial. Are we clear? Now I'm going to read a synopsis from this particular book on the Spanish Inquisition. All right? The Spanish Inquisition. Here is the complete story of one of history's most appalling tyrannies, first established in 1232 and destined to survive in one form or another into the 19th century. Well, it still exists, y'all. The Inquisition was slow to spread to Spain, yet flourished there as nowhere else. Under Isabella, it took firm root. During the next half century, it grew exceedingly, but it was the reign of Philip II which enabled it to dominate the country. And the fervent desire of that monarch was to extend the persecution of heretics into all his dominions. In the Netherlands, Alva set up the notorious Council of Blood. So when they say bless you, they're actually talking about blood. Letting your blood. Or bloodletting. And those who clung to their opinions were tortured and often burned or buried alive. Love, isn't it? Yeah, right. Attempts were also made to establish the Inquisition in Peru, in Naples, in Sicily, in Sardinia, in Milan, and the Canaries. Your Canary Islands, this is where they first started calling us Indians, when they tried to take over the trade routes of the Moors. Are we clear? Amen. It wasn't in the North Territory, it was in the Caribs. In Portugal, in Goa, with varying successes. But the coming of the Bourbons saw the first real check to the Inquisitor's power. Charles III, long reign, brought a new stability and an atmosphere in which bigotry could not flourish so effectively. The Inquisition started on its slow decline. Meanwhile, its toll has been terrible. Among its victims had been Antonio Perez, whose intrusion into the emotional life, and listen to this as we follow through. Listen to this very careful, because I'm going to give you a spelling so that you can understand Inquisition operations that's taking place to this very day. And this particular part of their tool was actually patented. Meanwhile, pay attention to what I'm getting ready to read. Its toll, the Inquisition, had been terrible. Among its victims had been Antonio Perez, whose intrusion into the emotional life of Philip II and the princess of Eboli, Eboli, is still a matter for speculation. Is it new, y'all? No. Is it old? Yeah. Olivares, who who had tried to destroy the Inquisition. 17th century Louis Ramay, who left an account of his sufferings for posterity. English sailors such as John Drake and Richard Hawkins, William Gardner, who was slowly roasted alive in Lisbon, the martyrs of the Netherlands, and the tragic Moors. That's what y'all been calling racism, and you are the target. So if you don't know history, you don't know what's wrong with you today. And the whole world knows this. Miss Plady's method is to examine the characters of those responsible for the monstrous tyranny and those who suffered because of it, and to portray it through their stories. Here are vivid pen portraits of the Inquisitors relentless in upholding a fanatical belief in their ability to bring men and women to salvation through physical suffering. In other words, them creating misery on earth is their religion. Is it racism, or is creating misery their religion? It's their own documents. And people wonder why they don't understand these Europeans. And of their victims forced to endure the rack, the hoist, and other fanatic torture devices because of the beliefs they held. Are we clear? Now, I'm going to draw something, and I'll see if you women are familiar with it, and I'm going to show you why the women of the North Gate, these Moors, who have been the target, and why they're afraid to be themselves. Mm-hmm. So they agree to be the brands that the Europeans put on them. Mm-hmm. They won't buy, they won't sell, they won't breathe without the mark or the number of his name. That's their licenses. They even made them in fancy filigree. And this would turn and screw, and this would open up. And this is metal. And this would close up like a flower. Then they would insert it and screw it until you confess to the church. It's called a vaginal pair.
Would that be like
a vaginal pair? That's why our women are delivering our children to the church today and lying on Jesus. And that's the trauma that's hidden in them. That's also our problem. It's called a vaginal pair. That's why these women in North America every Sunday deliver their children to the priests and lie on Jesus. And why we're screwed up. And also it was done so that they would develop children with psychological problems because they themselves are traumatized. This is why bipolar is common amongst our women. And of course, those of us who don't understand what's really wrong, we be thinking they're out to lunch or don't like us. And it's not really that. They've been traumatized. So what happens if we don't really start being honest about things and start really fixing this stuff? What is the ultimate outcome? Destruction. And if we're not honest, is nature going to sit around and play with us?
No. Laws of nature.
Because we refuse to render under Caesar what is Caesar's. And we continue to fund our own enslavement and act like we're giving God money. And act like these buildings are Jesus' house when it's really Constantine. And we've been doing it for generations, and we wonder why our children are dying younger and younger, and why the youth don't believe in us anymore. And while they're doing the best they can, whatever they can do to survive, because they don't expect to live past 30. And they love us but don't trust us. Because we keep telling them, just pray on it, and all they see is misery and death and drugs and broken families. And then we get mad when they're not spookified. And nobody wants to talk about this stuff, do they? Because we're believers. And we want to defend our beliefs, which is really mind control set up by the Bishopric of Rome. You have been the target, and we're your sons, so it's an automatic given. We're done. So if you don't fix it, we're done. And so what do they call it in Rex 84? An Executive Order 11490, King Alfred plan. He says what? The pressure would be what? Encroached upon them little by little, they will adjust and essentially and eventually crack up. And it is a form of biological warfare. And yet it is so subtle that they don't know how to cry out and associate with people that know how to deal with the problem. That's King Alfred. We'll go ahead. That's Executive Order 11490, King Alfred plan. So that's your, now we're going to bring in the future some pictures of it, and in your big time churches and stuff, they have them. They're in museums. They enjoyed bringing so much suffering on women that they actually made these vagina pairs like jewels. They're actually like jewels.
I posted a link already on the.
Yes, you got the.
I posted a link for pictures right into the thing.
A picture of it.
When they hit the link, it'll take them to the pictures.
Yes. Now, and so in order to steal your wealth, because you got to remember, in Asiatic African culture, the nature of governing are matriarchies, not patriarchies. This is why they won't tell the people of the ancient civil temples, upon which all your major cathedrals are built on today, and all of them were matriarchies. All of your early, what they would call God principles, are female, in harmony with nature. Allah is a feminine name, and yet they tell people it's a man with a turban sitting on a throne. And anyone knows language know that Allah is a feminine name. Elohim, which they'll tell you in the Bible means God. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
What it is?
Yeah.
That's what that word means. And it's plural. And it's plural. And singular, that's plural. Singular is this. And it's 7 of them. And the 7 as one in the circle is Elohim. Go ahead, good brother.
You said that all the major cathedrals were built on old civil temples, and
old civil temples, all your major cathedrals, golf courses, military bases, etc., run in the modern world are on some noble points or some ancient civil temple.
So I recently moved to Baltimore and noticed that that's the oldest cathedral here. And I was wondering if that was an old civil temple.
Well, if it is, it's built on an old civil temple.
Interesting. I'm going to be doing some
short. They don't want you to know that the divine principle that people have been calling God is a woman.
A lot.
That's the truth. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot.
Give him the mic.
Yeah, to add what you're saying, a lot. The feminine, the T has a Talmud boot on it, and it makes it effeminate the transliteration or the translation of the word Allah.
This is why you'll see in certain religious orders, you'll see men who wear jalabu, and it looks like a dress that's in honor of Allah or the feminine principle. And that's the truth. So get over it. Dump your ego and humble yourselves. And let's work to start uplifting fallen humanity. How do you do it? Start telling the truth. Start getting the priesthood out of the way and stop feeding them demons. Because they're taking you into the pool pit knowingly.
How do we get to 7? How do we get to 7?
The 7 candlesticks, or like you see when Muslims, which means fetus, doesn't mean your belief system. It means the living bones, the structure, electrical system in the form of the temple of man that come out the womb of woman is Muslim. Ain't got a daggone thing to do with belief.
Thought of Allah.
When you see them make the Hajj in Mecca, you'll see them go around the cube 7 times counterclockwise. It's called circumambulation. When you see in the book of Revelation, you see Yahshua standing amongst 7 golden candlesticks. Same thing. And these people be arguing with each other. You don't know Allah. Oh no, you don't know Jesusness. And they be sticking each other with toothpicks and stuff. My God makes better sandwiches than yours. They're hateful. Dangerously hateful. Talking about love. They don't love nobody. They shed more blood in the name of their dogma, faking it as religion on humanity, and they must be exposed. That's all your priesthood. All of them. And they're all guilty. And the ones who are not doing it are guilty for not telling the truth.
Come on.
And for helping to keep the people passive while they get raped. Blaming the mystical devil and attacking Taji guy for telling the truth. Because know that the trolls are out there every time we speak. You know why? Because when you start educating the people, it takes their hands out your pocket. You get the whole point? Yeah. You know, just like when Il Malik found out the truth. Il Malik.
Malcolm X.
Il Malik. Il Malik. They call Malcolm X. What was the Masonic password before they murdered him?
Take your
Get your hand out of our pocket. Signal. They knew the truth. And he wouldn't sell out. So they got rid of him. It's not a new issue. Ain't new then, ain't new now, ain't new in the past. So how do you start liberating people? Tell them the truth. Why is truth controversy? Why are people expecting you to apologize for telling the truth? While they keep on talking about they have the truth. All right.
Because ignorance is profitable.
Exactly. And slavery is. And so the deal of it is, when you really understand the real politics, you understand the subject for tonight. Because most of you came in here and you may figure I just picked that subject up because it's something to talk about. But it's really directed at you mothers. Because you've been the target. You see, in order to conquer a nation, what do? You conquer the queen. Why? She produces both male and female. But what do? Divert the argument to make it look like they're doing something else. And trick her into delivering her own children to the priesthood, who they think love Jesus and God. And they're delivering them to Constantine, Pope of Rome, to their own detriment. With the aiding and abetting of their own Negro leader guys who claim to be reverends and clergy, who they think are separate from the church and state type thing. And they are partners. Always have been. Are we clear? So you can't beat Rome because he's a death machine. So what you must do is do what? Reject Rome and render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Book of Malachi. Brother Troy.
Come on.
Book of Malachi, pick it up and close out the Old Testament and read it.
4:2.
The book of Malachi.
Coming at you.
And this is the book that the people say they love, that they know, right? Haven't they said that? And when they talk about the Arian heresy, and you see, go ahead, read it. Give him the mic.
But for, I'm in Malachi chapter 4, verse.
Yes, read it, read it.
Okay. Surely the day is coming, it will burn like a furnace. All the arrogant and every evil doer will be stubble. And that day that is coming will set them on fire, says the Lord Almighty. Not a root or branch will be left to them. But for you who revere my name, the Son, S-U-N, of righteousness will rise with healing in its wings. And you will go out and leap like calves released from the stall.
Now spell son.
S-U-N.
Say it again.
S-U-N. But for you who revere my name, the Son, S-U-N, S-U-N, of righteousness will rise with healing in its wings.
So is the cosmology of the sun hidden? Is that a misspell?
No.
How come it doesn't say S-O-N? Because that is the Son of God. So you see how the priesthood protect themselves? They put a code in there so they can duck the karmic debt. So that when these people say that you deceived us, and you know what he's going to say? All I did was call. You followed.
Islam.
But they say they know that book, don't they? I don't think they do. Now you see the Arian heresy? Aries, the ram, the Lamb of God.
Primus.
On the cross.
The first.
And they sacrifice him. Their religion is human suffering. Go ahead.
I just want to also add that on the, quote, religion, unquote, side, the book of John says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
So what happens when people don't have an Edamon degree?
They are absolutely lost. So the book says the most important thing is the Word.
All right, now, y'all pick up that dictionary. Charles Dictionary again, give the sister a mic, and I want you to look up Edamon. Or give it to someone else. Yeah, work with it, y'all. Here you go. There you go, Edamon. Go ahead. Oh, pass it on.
Y'all got a dictionary?
Girlfriend's still ducking.
Here.
You go with
Y'all go ahead.
The truth. It's the true origin and science of a word.
Go ahead.
All right, we coming with the dictionary. We're looking up etymology.
Come on, any one of the dictionaries, because we got plenty of them in the building.
Yeah. Mike. Need the sisters to do it, man. It really matters.
Prefer to do that, the sisters. See, because when it becomes theirs, because who's the first teacher of the children?
The woman.
Mother.
When we were sitting at the store, Sister Nana, when we were sitting in the store, remember this morning? And when the women were walking past the children, smile come on your face. Who's the first teacher for them babies?
Mother.
Women. What happens if we don't get these women to straighten up and fly right and start dealing with truth?
They're still going to deliver them to the dark priesthood.
What keeps happening to us in our families as a result? As a result.
We're getting
it's suffering. It went on several times, and even in this century, 20th century. In the 19th century, during the slave trade, someone was born in slavery. Guess who the captured slave was? The woman. So I'm born by you. I'm born in slavery. Because me and Taj and
Christian black codes, read them.
Right. Also, during the 20th century, late 20th century, the AIDS virus, they celebrate when a black woman has AIDS. Because that kills the opportunity for the next generation to come out working properly. Now, they increased what you said earlier, Taj, the increasing prison population
They're
and experiments.
They're really POW camps.
Yeah.
They're really prisoner of war camps. Now go ahead, sis.
Edamon.
Now remember what Brother Troy just said, right? From the Bible, right? First there was word, right? Read that again, because I want you to back this up. Read it again, Brother Troy. And then you read Edamon, sis.
It's not in the dictionary. It's not in the dictionary.
It should be in there.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
The radical or root form of a word.
Root.
The primitive signification of a word. Original meaning. True, genuine.
Now, true, genuine, right?
Original.
The root. Is root not foundation? Does a branch spread the root, or does the root make the branch?
Root makes the branch.
Read etymology.
Can't get fruit on the tree without it.
The history of a word, as indicated by breaking it down into basic elements or by tracing it back to the earliest known form or root, where all its changes in form and meaning. Also, a statement of this, the study or derivation of words.
So what happens with the priesthood is to present to the masses connotative linguistics as a presentment of education and denying the etymon. And therefore, just like you see in the book, open up that first page. Open up the first page. Open up the first page.
Genesis.
Translated out of his original tongues.
Yes.
And with the former translations diligently compared and revised. Sounds innocent, doesn't it?
But it's true.
It's an etymological workshop for mind control. And they're telling you to your face. But how many people don't know what they just read?
Islam.
Go ahead. Read, sis.
The nation of the word,
Yeah, everybody? Go ahead.
All right. Account or explanation of the origin and history of the word. Study, dealing with linguistics, changes especially with individual word origins. And then it says the original sense or form of a word. That's it.
Now read that again and see the meaning. See the meaning of that.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
So if these people can't read, can they know God? See how simple that is? But they're going to tell you about gods and devils and mysteries and the heavens. Now you understand where the common law is predicated in this principle? How dare you claim the love of God you do not see, and love not your brothers and sisters whom you see by the day? Is it not true that the common law is predicated on your capacity and ability to render a cognate answer or response to the principles of the ancient traditions and customs of your ancient mothers and fathers from time immemorial, and thus the common law is recognized? The incapacity to do so, one cannot use the common law. Now, do you understand when some of the magistrates tell some of these Europeans that perfect the UCCs and other processes, and they say that you cannot use their constitution as a defense, you're not a party to it. Likewise, it goes for these Moors of pedigree who do not recognize their bloodline but talking about rights, i.e. the Dred Scott case, the Amistad case, Ferguson versus Plessy. The principle is the same. These principles must be displayed to our people in such a manner that they can intellectually comprehend it and adjust their lives accordingly. Failure to do so guarantees a loss of a state. Is that racism or is that loss to state? Now you see what Dwally said, the Europeans living off your virtues? Now you see in the questionnaire or in the Moorish literature, Noble Drew Ali says what? The object in reference to the Moorish Divine National Movement, the Moorish Temple of Science, the Old Canaanite Temple, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the object of this organization is to do what? To help in the great missionary work of uplifting fallen humanity and teaching our people those things necessary to make them better citizens. Therefore, the Moorish Temple of Science was registered as a civic organization, 1925, 1926. And then because of the infiltration, he adopted a religious affidavit in 1928, in August. Is it very clear? I want you to look at these things to recognize that the Inquisition has not ended. That's what the Moorish movement is really all about. To check the Inquisition that people keep thinking ended. Thinking it ended, didn't end it. It's been institutionalized. That's what the U.S. democracy is all about. Are we clear? Clear. And so the people have felt in their mind or thought they were liberated, and they were just what? Jumping through the hoops better. Islam, go ahead, brother.
So the importance of nationality from Black's Law Dictionary, one of the Roman maxims of law. Jura sanguinis nullo, jure civili dirimi possum. The right of blood and kindred cannot be destroyed by any civil law.
Now, so Drawley brought you back. Islam. The truth about your name, your nationality, and your lost estate. Are we clear? So what occurs when people keep thinking that the restoration of the state is a mere belief system? Their concept is absolutely wrong. You see? Islam. Give her the mic.
Islam, I know a lot of people know this, but some don't. And I always check myself now that I know it, known it for a while now. For instance, you talk about etymology, so the word nice. We are so quick to say that something is nice. Or, as a matter of fact, recently, they probably know who they are, somebody posted something, and the more that I'm aware of, I don't think they liked what it was that was posted, and I remember seeing the comment, nice. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm pretty sure, Cameron, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, simply.
This Moore knew what he was saying when he said that thing was nice. Mm-hmm. He was actually saying that thing was stupid, it was senseless, and so we have to be careful, to
blocking.
Right, we need to pay attention to the origins of the words, some of the ones that we commonly, use. I mean, nice and bad and some other things.
Yes.
We use commonly, and we don't realize that we are kind of spewing, I would say, curses.
Yes, exactly.
By our very use of them.
This is one of the purposes of connotative linguistics, that we would curse ourselves. This is why you see Europeans will say black is a curse. They're not talking the etymology, they're talking the connotative presentment of distorted etymology, which steals the birthright. This is also the issue of branding. Great.
I always find one of the most funny but sad demonstrations of connotative linguistics being the etymon for Christian. Mm-hmm. Because it comes from Crete. Mm-hmm. So all these people running around
and you can look right in the dictionary and
recognize what they're calling themselves, which I know all the Privy Council.
And not because you said so, because that's the definition.
You can even find it online.
Yeah, of course. Online. Of course. And then they blame that on Yeshua. Say that he brought it. They're lying on him. But not unlike what is clearly evident with the secret treaty of Verona, that the missionaries that promote it know exactly what they're doing. and know that they're submitting the people to the popes of Rome. But they're operating with this general concept that you can tell them anything because they remain in a belief degree. They refuse to deal with the facts. Go ahead, good brother.
I want to take some time to address this. First of all, pounding the importance of the word.
Yes.
And then the etymology, or etymon being the egg or the seed.
Yes.
And then under the auspice of connotative linguistics,
yes,
you got to throw in there the English language. It's classified as an equivocal language.
Yes.
So equivocal means is subject to two or more interpretations, and it is usually used to mislead, deceive, confuse, and it is of uncertain nature or disposition toward a person or thing. It is of doubtful advantage, of doubtful genuineness, and of doubtful moral rectitude. And moral rectitude is morally correct behavior, thinking, or righteousness. And English is classified as an equivocal language.
Exactly.
And we gotta stay on point with that. So here is this equivocal language, a language that was intended to mislead, deceive, and confuse. It's not our language, but the Bible was translated into an equivocal language.
Purposeful mind control, which is verified and admitted to in the secret treaty of Verona. And what? Filed in the congressional record. Is that hidden?
No. And
all of these people in all these secret societies know this. Why don't they teach the common people? Because they've been what? Getting a bite off the spoils. Go ahead, good brother.
King James had a Monaco issue, and he created a response to the creation of this version, King James Version.
Well, that's why they named the river after him, James River. In Virgin Land, Virginia. And this is why they do Virgin Mary, Virginia, and Maryland, and take a piece of each state of affairs and make Alexandria, and then put the obelisk there. Washington, who did what? Converted the Moorish estates and Bonnevilles into the states and declared the father of the country being the 9th president. You need to understand what's done Masonically in people's faces all the time.
And he was a British officer on top of that.
Of course he was.
And we're still in league.
Now, and back to when you talked to me earlier, yesterday, and you talked about George Washington's letter. Is it hidden?
No.
No, of course not.
But the way it's written, if you don't...
What do they do? This is what, if you pay attention to Rome and Romans, what do they do? Let's look at what they do, and then make a comment. No, hold it. Make your comment. They will tell the truth to people who they know can't read, to relieve the karmic debt upon themselves. So they do the National Treasure movie and duality, Hermetic Law, Part 1, Part 2, in Philadelphia, and they go to Pennsylvania House, which they call Independence Hall. He goes to the steeple, and they pull out a brick with 4 corners like this, and pull out shades of glasses with blue, flip, ether, and the whole theme of this thing that the treasures of Egypt was under your feet all the time. They're telling you Egypt is here. So can they say that they didn't say it? They tell them the Great Seal, the insignia of the ancient Canaanite Moabite nation. And the woman completes her coin collection. Coin, Article 1, Section 10.
Yep.
Enforcement of the Constitution, duality say what? What is the missionary work of the movement.
Enforce the
to
Constitution.
enforce that Constitution.
Yes.
What they've been doing, everything else but that. Even doing salami bologna to no jolly. Salami with no jolly. Oh, peanut butter sandwiches. Avoiding that constitutional enforcement, though, ain't they? So people who don't read don't recognize treason, do they? And they've been doing what? Keeping the people passive and delivering them to Rome. Meanwhile, they got a 501c3 Skull and Bones agreement. But they made a Taji guy, right? Any other questions, Dr. Nayyar?
I have a question online.
Yes.
I think the person asked, because I'm off the page again, that was it safe to surmise that they're gearing up for, I think it said, Running of the Bulls Part 2.
Well, you got that. Don't they call the bull market Wall Street? Mm-hmm. Don't they have the bulls sitting up there?
Can you enlighten us a little bit on the first one?
Which one?
The first Running of the Bulls.
Well, the Running of the Bulls, you got to remember also in Al-Andalus, what they call Spain, and also in South America, the ritual they have every year with people dressed up in costumes representing Constantine, and then they hide behind the word Christian, and then they're fighting the Moors, etc. They do it every year. And then they have the Running of the Bulls. Now, again, and while you're doing it, keep in mind, when Obama went to Hikupta, Egypt, he exposed that the American Constitution comes from Muslim law. He shows you the true American flag. They cut out the stars and stripes, which is the Amity and Commerce flag, which is also to the right of them. She wears a red dress. She breaks tradition, goes to the Alhambra, Spanish Inquisition. They come back, he signs the rights of indigenous people, which none of the other predators would sign. Rahm Emanuel, the Jew, left his administration in 2010, and the first thing he issued from his desk, December 22nd, 2011, which is the first full day of the winter solstice, telling about Noble Drawley, telling about these people are the aboriginal people to this land, North, Central, and South America. Does he not? Now, this is also back to what we were talking about earlier, Sister Nana. How signals are sent out and people may not recognize the signals, and they're busy looking at other things and not recognizing the signals are sent. Go ahead.
Interjection.
Interjection, go ahead.
Rahm Israel Emmanuel.
Yes.
And his proclamation.
Read his proclamation from the desk, go ahead, from the top to the bottom.
Proclamate office of the mayor, city of Chicago. Rahm Emanuel, mayor, proclamation. Whereas the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, Amalekites, Canaanites, who were permitted by the old pharaohs of Kemet to traverse from East Africa and later form themselves kingdoms and from the southwestern, extending from the southwestern and southern shores of Africa to the Atlantic islands onto the present-day continental Americas. And whereas the indigenous Moorish people of the Americas are now united back to themselves with the family of nations. And whereas the Moorish Americans, being aboriginal to the territory of North, Central, and South Americas, have formed a sovereign theocratic government guided by the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice through the virtue of the universal right to self-determination, as well as a declaration on the rights of indigenous people guaranteed in the Charter. And whereas on January 8th, 1886, Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina, destined to become the first patriot of his mentally enslaved Moorish American people. In 1912, he was later named or signed, titled El-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali by the heads of Egypt and the holy city of Mecca to return to the United States as the last prophet and founding father of the newly risen nation of Moorish Americans. As a result of the 13th Amendment, Moorish people were emancipated from slavery in 1865. Now, therefore I, Rahm Emanuel, Mayor of the City of Chicago, do hereby proclaim January 8th, the 8th through the 15th, 2012, to be Moorish American Week in Chicago and urge all residents to recognize the event, please, for this time. It's dated this 22nd day of December 2011. Rahm Emanuel. Man.
The North Gate, with the sources.
The Emancipation Proclamation, because we were thinking we're being freed as slaves and all that.
No.
I mean, free from slavery is actually freed from slavery in the administration of the United States in 1865. Read that thing correctly, it actually talks about the administration, just so everybody should know.
Yes.
If we're growing up being taught we're free from slavery, no.
They were not.
That's right.
They were transferred to the cares of Congress.
And Mississippi is one of the last, I think it's the last state, the last couple of months, to actually complete the documentation. They never completed it.
Exactly.
For the city. So there's still stuff going on that a lot of people don't know. Just to add to that. So,
yes.
So be on the record that the Emancipation Proclamation is only for the administrative process of those people in government to be free from the slave trade there. Every place else is private.
Yes. Now, and when you look at, and this is back to comprehending and understanding Woodrow Wilson, when they set up another corporate shell that crashed, of course you know, in Puerto Rico in 1913, and they converted all allodial titles and aboriginal titles into mortgages and deeds, 1913. And then you look at 1933 with House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session June the 5th of 1933, and with the earlier years where they call the bank's holiday. And so you deal with 28 when the crash really took place. And the bank holidays when you deal with the executive order. So you can see 28, how they adapted the religious affidavit, David, to the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Are these dates coincidental? Just a question.
No.
He registered the Moorish Holy Temple of Science as a civic organization in 1925, registered in 1926. 1925, the owners of the United States Corporation had to re-register their corporate entity. 1925, papers of which I've given you. Do you think those dates are coincidental? And so now, they've funded the United States Service Corporation again with the birth certificates, with House Joint Resolution 192. That's the conversion of the private estates in the name of public sovereignty into the hands of the private owners of the Jesuit order and Serco. So write this down because you're all going to do research. Excuse me. So what's that, y'all? What's Serco? What's Serco, y'all? What?
Service.
Good.
That's that company.
Say it loud so we can hear you.
I'm not sure what it's called, but it's the company, the
Give
organization.
her the mic.
Google it.
It's,
I know it's the organization that runs almost everything.
Exactly. The world's largest corporation.
Yeah.
How come the people aren't aware of it? Because it's carrying out the Spanish Inquisition. They're administrating in via the Roman Curia of all the corporate entities. That means Social Security come from them. They run the non-interruptible circuitry on all airplanes. They run the Navy, the military, IRS, your food, modification, orders, your drug war machine, all military equipment, all corporate entities, and they're all collectively crown agents. Are we clear? Go ahead.
Can I read something about marriage, since
Yes,
you're
go
talking
ahead.
about marriage?
Go ahead, thank you.
I'm looking at the etymology, and first is a quote by someone. He says, when two people are under the influence of the most violent, most insane, most delusive, and most transient of passions, they are required to swear that they will remain in that excited, abnormal, and exhausting condition until death do they part. I think that's from George Bernard Shaw. But in the etymology of it, I realize meaning a union of a man and woman for life by marriage, a particular matrimonial union is early 14th century, meaning the marriage vow, formal declaration of contract by which two join in wedlock, also a wedding, celebration of marriage. The marriage ceremony are, again, from late 14th century.
Yes.
So prior to that,
nature, you can't sell that which is divine in nature. In other words, what they've been doing is selling men and women back to each other under a state contract, telling them it means divine, and the corporate state owners is cheat all your estate. And so what happens is all your stuff goes automatically into probate. So how do you avoid it? You get rid of contracts that you assume was divine, and you do things in divine order, but you must learn what divine is. So therefore, the divine and national movement is in place to bring cures and remedy to a sin-sick world. Not circumstantial. Go ahead, brother.
In George Washington's letter, in the 4th paragraph, he addresses, I've read this letter so many times, it's a crying shame. He tells everything. In that letter, and he structures how we should act, with them being of service to us. Because in that paragraph, he points out activities that the empire is doing, which confirms their service to us. And at that time, the United States Services Corporation was in place, servicing 19 enumerated powers of the United States. So here we are 200 years later, and we can actually still apply it. That's why I brought that up. I caught on to it.
Yes, and aren't our concepts generally wrong with the people?
Yes, it took me, I don't want to sound personal, but it took me a very long time to be able to understand, like we all know an affidavit is a statement, but in our case, we can't just make a statement, because all the measures that he talks about in the 5th paragraph becoming harmonious with the empire, and right now we're harmonious under their jurisdiction, are some of the things like the Treaty of the Secret Treaty of Verona, the overthrow in 1861. These are the measures that have been placed, and he tells it in the letter. It's going to kick our butts. They did.
Yes.
That's what happened. And I didn't realize it until I started actually applying this. So the affidavit is key for our survival and communication with anybody, includes our relatives, because they're U.S. citizens until they start thinking and understanding. Huh?
Which is stock.
Stock. Okay. That's correct. I'm sorry.
You know, I mean, because in other words, you must make that equation.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm seriously saying U.S. citizens. They're
stock. And don't know their stock.
Right.
They think that is citizenship of getting rights under the Constitution. They're stock.
Right. And they think it's a lifestyle. You can't be a citizen of a corporation. It's impossible. The employee can, but that's the way the U.S. picked it up, using the French Revolution. as they call their subjects citizens, and as though they were brothers. So here, under the occupation of the United States Corporation Company, federal state, corporately style state jurisdiction, okay, that's what's going on. So if you work for anybody, especially a non-profit organization, that's a United States citizen. And anybody who's naturalized, and anybody of us who are unconscious of being naturalized, is naturalized under the 14th Amendment, is property and stock, and they're their taxpayers. There's a lot to say.
You
But it
see
took a
what
lot
Romney
to
was
do that.
talking about in the divine warning about the 14th Amendment?
Yes, I got it.
He told us over 100 years ago to prepare us for today. Those who listen have tools. Those who didn't, getting ready to get sacrificed. They don't know. So you must present this information with a concept that the people can comprehend for themselves.
Islam.
And not really become followers of anybody.
That's right.
But to seek and follow the truth. And until they find out where it is, there will be religious controversy. And so this, and the schism that goes with it, is the fact that people will not tell the real history for the sake of controlling people or trying to own the birthright and playing club with it and making people think it is something that's granted to you by being a member of some organization when it's your pedigree, bloodline by birthright. Islam. Anyway, any more questions? We want to thank you all for coming out to the House of Reawakening Minds. We went over a few things about the Spanish Inquisition, made provable ties to yourself, trusting that you have a better comprehension of the Moorish Divine and National Movement, and that it's not a club, it's actually worldwide, and can come under many names. But the principle does not change. Are we clear? Your failure to recognize your obligatory participation in the restoration of your own birthright cannot be expressed enough. Enough emphasis can never be placed upon it and upon its importance. Right? Thank you all for coming out to the House of Reawakening Minds. Hope we learned some things. All right? Islam.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. Also, I want to thank you for your support of the House of Reawakening Minds. Not only those of you who are here, who traveled. I know one sister was here all the way from Khalifa territory, from California.
Yes.
So thank you all from wherever you travel from. Also want to thank all of our faithful, loyal, online, Facebook Live participants. Just also want to make an announcement that hopefully next week, if not next week, at least by the following week, we are going to be doing YouTube Live. We have some new equipment coming, and we're going to be able. A lot of people are asking us about YouTube,
Yes.
and we want to do it ourselves because everybody else is putting our videos on their YouTube page from this venue. And while I appreciate the information getting out to those who can only see it on YouTube, I think it makes more sense for House of Reawakening Minds to be able to promote its own video and its own venue. So thank you to all of those who've been getting it out, and I know you'll get this one out within the next 15, 20 minutes. But soon, and very soon, we will go YouTube Live. And again, if you haven't gone to our YouTube page and signed up, we'll be posting, between myself and Sister Tamara L, we'll be posting that link. If you haven't, subscribed, soon, like maybe as soon as next week, we are going to be actually going to do our first test run of YouTube Live. We also want you to know that next week we have Father Hannibal will be in house next Friday. I know many of you enjoy the Magi training and the Adept training that he's been providing. He will be back on next Friday. So again, thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your love and support. We appreciate it, and everything that you do, especially all of the lively commentary during the broadcast. We thank you and we love you. Islam.
Islam.